Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to an all-new season of the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right folks, we are back for an all-new instalment of the ever-popular and ever-increasing demand GT3 series, and what a season we've got in store. It is season number 12 that we're about to embark on today, and as we get ready to go racing, well there's plenty of new rules, regulations and stories to tell, and we're going to bring you up to speed immediately as we can here in today's pre-season event. Indeed, much like previous seasons, in the build-up to our 10-round championship, we do host a week before everything gets underway and everyone's playing for points, a pre-season event where the only thing up for grabs today is bragging rights and the right to gauge exactly where you sit in relation to your rivals. There are no points on the line, there is no pressure per se, but all the drivers want to make sure they take the glory today in order to be able to put a little bit of peer pressure on their rivals and get a feeling of whether they're in a good spot or whether they need to try and hurry up with regards to some practice and speed up their pace. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this post-round broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight to the Superstar Split from Season 12, and we're bringing you all the racing action for the pre-season event which occurred on Thursday the 26th of March 2026, bringing it as if it were live today on Monday the 30th of March. Therefore, we do not know what happens in the qualifying session that's currently ongoing or the upcoming race, and it's as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience for you guys and girls tuning in at home. Indeed, in the commentary booth you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be back and acting as your commentator and broadcaster for the entirety of the Superstar Split for this season, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity for SimRacing International to come back once again and tell the stories of our drivers as it unfolds, and we look forward to seeing how they all get on. Well, where exactly are we today? We have made our way to the Sebring International Raceway in the US state of Florida. One of the oldest circuits of the country, dating its history all the way back to the Second World War, being used as an Army air base, the Hendricks Army Airfield in particular. Well, this circuit very quickly evolved from what was used to taxi B-17 bombers to a place where endurance racing has been key, and it's no wonder why it's a mainstay of international features, including none other than the annual 12 Hours of Sebring. But while it lacks an elevation change, given it owing the fact it's a runway circuit, it is a circuit that makes up for it with 17 corners and an absolutely brilliant length of 3.74 miles. Within those corners, sweepers, hairpins, they all abound, heavy braking zones and long straights as well. What's the most unique feature about this circuit, of course, is how rough and rugged it is, with 1/3 of the circuit being made up of old concrete runway sections which have connecting seams that are going to be very rough on our drivers' cars, and the other 2/3 is made up of modern asphalt. Therefore, for our drivers, the setup is not just about being the quickest on the straights and all the fastest through the corners, but also having the right ride heights and suspension settings to make sure the car doesn't ground out on the concrete and end up having a suspension shatter. Get it right and you may be leading the way all the way. Get it wrong, however, and you may be bounced out, or alternatively see the suspension fall apart and your car have to be towed to the pits. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's not waste any more time. Let's bring you up to speed with what's in store for Season 12 and explain how we've moved from Season 11 to Season 12 with regards to all of our rules and regulations, because there's so much to uncover. But without further ado, of course, we start off with our calendar for the season. We can't go racing without a calendar, and as we can see, a pre-season event, and then it'll be 10 rounds of racing action. A mixture of circuits being included, but this really may feel as though it's a greatest hits feature of GT3 racing circuits, albeit we have tried to follow the iRacing official schedules where possible, but where the administration here at SimRacing International has deemed that certain circuits may not be conducive to racing, we've opted to swap them out with some rather more favourable circuits. Indeed, we'll be opening up in a week's time with round number 1 on the 2nd of April, and that'll be at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg Grand Prix circuit, and that'll be for the first of 10 rounds, after which we then make our way to Belgium for the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, a mainstay of endurance racing, particularly with GT3s, and then it'll be to Italy for the Mugello Grand Prix circuit in round number 3. After that, we head to Japan for the Fuji International Speedway in the foothills of Mount Fuji. We'll get to see our drivers take on the contradictory circuit, where it's incredibly long straight, but also its mixture of corners, and we wrap up the first half of the season by making our way to the United Kingdom for the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and of course the annual host of GT3 racing in the form of the GT World Challenge Europe Sprint. And then in round number 6 we have no mid-season break, because on the 7th of May we head to Circuit Zolder, everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit. We'll then head back to Japan for the Suzuka International Racing Courses Grand Prix circuit in round number 7. Then it's to France for the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours in round number 8, and your host of course the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Series. For our penultimate round we make our way back to the US of A, and indeed it's going to be to the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta in the US state of Georgia. The roller coaster ride there sets us up for our terrific finale, which of course will be back in the Donington Decider, the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit in the heart of the United Kingdom. The heart of British motorsport will play host for our season finale, and on the 4th of June we will be crowning our champions. So a great mix of circuits, and as you take your attention towards the right hand side of our table, what you can see there is you've got your masters and your superstars. Now, to give you a quick summary for the purpose purposes of this season. What exactly is the difference? Because previously, if you've been following the previous seasons, particularly season 7 onwards, we've had Split A and we've had Split B. You may remember that Split A has had our fastest classes typically, although we did mix things up back in season 9, if my memory serves me correctly, or season 10. Indeed, it'll get a bit foggy with regards to my mind. But either way, the normal theme has been that Split A has had your elite and your pro drivers, the quickest of them all, and going for the ultimate prizes there and the right to prove they are the fastest. Meanwhile, in Split B, we've also had the very talented likes of lower pace drivers in our Premier and Evo classes. But to be fair, they've all competed for glory in their respective class championships, and there's been a teams championship that interweaves across Split A and Split B. We're not removing the teams championship. That stays across our two splits of Masters and Superstars. But what we are doing is we are removing the pace-based focus of which split you are in. So therefore, you are going to see 3 driver classes in each of the splits, Masters and Superstars, and they will be Pro, Intern, Evo, and they all represent a 3-tier system whereby the pros are the quickest of them all. Then the inters are in between. They are interluding between the Evo and what is the pro class there as they continue to push towards becoming pros. And you have your Evo drivers who are the slowest drivers in theory, but at the same time as well, they are the evolving drivers whereby they're looking to become into the inter category and then gradually get to the pro class. So therefore, what exactly distinguishes these two splits then, you may ask? Well, Superstars you can liken to be the continuity championship, whereby the rule set that applies is very similar, if not identical, to what we've seen in previous seasons of our Thursday GT3 Championship, whereas the Masters are aligned for a bit more of a hard line experience. Indeed, we tighten up the rules just that little bit more in the Masters. We won't go too much into them, but just to give you some quick fire examples, firstly, we have no fast repairs in Masters, so indeed, if you have a difficult moment in the race, you end up in the barrier or contact with another car, you have to preside with the damage, or alternatively, you've got to tow to the pits or come in immediately and spend the time in the pit lane that you'd be expected to do on the iRacing system, much like the official races, where of course in Superstars we will be retaining those fast repairs, so that way your team are able to get the car fixed rather quickly. They take the instant coffee or the Red Bull, depending on their preference to drink, and they're able to get that car absolutely back to normal as quick as a click of your finger. That's just one example there, and another one being the instant point counts, whereby they're still generous in Superstars, but in Masters they have been toned down, which means 1 or 2 contacts and a couple of off tracks, and very quickly you'll find yourself picking up a drive-through penalty, if not a disqualification. And that opens up the door, of course, to providing a bit more variety for our GT3 championships, and those looking for a bit more of a hardline experience, they may gravitate towards Masters, whereas those looking for a bit more of a casual experience, or just the norm, will be going into Superstars, so that'll be the preference. But you'll see there, with regards to our calendar as well, in terms of the types of rounds, Superstars for this season only has 60-minute races. There's no variety, there are no sprint races, of which there will be 2 rounds. We have the 2x30-minute sprint race configuration for Masters. But what will stay the change, of course, as well as the circuits everybody races on over the course of the season, is the weather conditions expected, whereby where you see a sun, that means it's clear skies or cloud. There is no chance of rain whatsoever. But rounds 2, also 4 and 7 all are expecting to have rain in either category, and we do have mixed conditions expected, unknown conditions if you will, for Road Atlanta in round number 9. So therefore it's going to be interesting, and regardless of whether you're Masters or Superstars, you're definitely set for an absolutely brilliant season of racing ahead. But in terms of our prizes for this season, because, of course, if our drivers are competing over 10 rounds, they're going to be going for gold. Indeed, the gold they will be searching for will be the 50 personalised driver trophies to be won across our Drivers' Championships and also the Teams Championship. These brilliant trophies, of course, highly coveted over previous seasons, and they're back once again. And as we can see there, in the top 5 of the Pro, Intern, Evo classes, whether you be Masters or Superstars, the top 5 finishers will be receiving one of these coveted trophies. And in the Teams Championship, which spans across both categories, the top 5 teams, all of their drivers will be receiving a trophy each, and that adds up to a grand total of 50 there, and we're very grateful to be bringing those trophies back once again, because we know how much our drivers love pursuing them. So therefore there's no difference in prizes whether you're Masters or Superstars, but there are differences in rules, and here is a quick summary of what has changed for the purposes of Superstars. And as we say, we're not going to focus on Masters. If you want to see what exactly has changed in Masters, to see what it means to be a more hardline category, well, you can go check out the broadcast there that was live from circuit side on the day of the first day of 26th of March on, of course, the SimRacing International YouTube channel, where you can catch all the racing action as it unfolds on a weekly basis. But as we can see here, in general, we have our split class assignments being changed to Pro, Inter and Evo, as we mentioned only moments ago. In terms of car setup, we are seeing the fuel loads being restricted to 75% for this season. So it is a slight change. In fact, it's gone from 70%, 70, to 75. So we're increasing the fuel tanks very slightly in the Superstars category, and that will open up a bit more strategic variety. Now, for all of our races, we see the instant consistent point limits. They stay the same in the case of the drive-through penalty at 18, but the race disqualification has been upped by 2. It's gone from 26 to 28, and therefore that just gives our drivers a little bit more flexibility if they have had a rough day at the office. But otherwise, you can see at the very bottom, the rules are the same as Season 11 for the Superstar split. So we carry the rules over, and that's why we refer to this as the Continuity Championship instead of the Masters. Now, we will be formally introducing all 60 of our competitors in the Superstars category in round number 1. The classes are still being finalised, and all the teams and drivers' details are still being finalised as well. And not all our drivers have made it here today to Sebring, so therefore we're not going to formally introduce everybody until the round 1 broadcast at the Hockenheim Ring in a week's time. So instead, what we're now going to do is introduce our host circuit for today. Here's, of course, the Sebring International Raceway Circuit, located near the city of Sebring in the Highlands County of the US state of Florida. 3.74 miles in length or 6.01 kilometers, depending on your preference of units. What will never change is the number of corners, 17 of them, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track map contained within it. And we can definitely see here the fact that this circuit, one of the most complex out there in the USA, as the drivers will roar the way around it several times over the course of the day, and then they've got to take on a whole variety of bends. It's going to be a flat-out run down the start-finish straight and in towards Gender being bend at turn 1. There for the sweeping left-hander. It'll then be a run all the way out through the kinks of turn 2 and in towards the left-hander at turn number 3. And as they go hard on the brakes there, they'll find the circuit will narrow very quickly as they go from left to right to left and clear turns 4 and 5 before heading through Big Bend at turn number 6. Flat out through the long right handle they'll go, and then it'll be into the hairpin. Hard on the brakes at turn number 7. Should they get it right there, they may be coming away and charging away all the way through Fangio at turns 8 and 9, named after the infamous Italian driver, of course. Well, they then make their way up towards turn number 10 at Cunningham Bend. Hard on the brakes they'll go once again there, the sharp 90-degree right-hander before they come in towards Collier at turn number 11. As they come through the sweeping left-hander, they'll need to settle their cars for the kink of 12 and brake hard for Tower Bend at turn number 13. Through the right-hand right-angle corner they'll go, and it'll be onto the back stretch through Bishop as they transition back onto the old concrete slabs of the runways. And then through the two lefts, they'll go into a right-hander at turn number 15, or coming through into Le Mans at turn 16. And it's on to the infamous Allman Straight, where you can expect plenty of 2-3 wide action. But we'll get into Sunset Bend, where the sun will shine in their eyes when the sun is setting, but not quite so today as they make their way through the long sweeping right-hander before going back onto the start-finish straight to do it all over again or to finally see that checker flag. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we've brought you up to speed with regards to what it means to be in the Superstars category, so therefore let's head back to circuit side and see how all of the drivers get it on with approximately 17.5 minutes of qualifying left to go. And as we can see here, the sun is definitely out, and plenty of drivers are definitely out on circuit at the moment, as we do see there, Stephen Kershaw getting himself set up very nicely. As he makes his way in towards Sunset Bend here, well, what's very interesting for the season, in fact, is you do have plenty of new names on the grid, as well as plenty of returning names. And we'll do our best to introduce quite a few of the drivers, but of course we will give a full set of formal introductions next week. But note on the left-hand side of your screen in the time tower, and you'll see against the drivers' names at the bottom, there are no classes assigned to anybody today. This is purely a completely open pre-season test race event. Of course, we do have a race here, albeit after qualifying we will have a 5-minute warm-up session, but it does mean there is no pressure on drivers today, and they can't quite get a gauge of who they're up against in class, but they can get an idea of who they may be racing with and against based on the pace they display. The class is still being finalised by the SimRacing International Administration, and they will be published just before race day in round number 1 across both Masters and Superstars. This doesn't just apply to Superstars, it applies to all of our GT3 Championships on Thursdays for this season. Those classes still being finalised. But we do welcome to the grid none other than Joris Petersveem, and well, a very popular driver, no doubt about it, as he brings his BMW M4 here today. And we should point out the car choice is not locked in at this point. It will be locked in depending on what car they turn up to the first round they participate in. So from round 1 onwards, pre-season testing is not a valid round. It does not fall within the regulations, and therefore they can bring any car they choose in the GT3 category today. They do not have to race it in a week's time. But after that, they will have one car swap available, of course, and if they choose to change their car after round number 1, they will use up that car swap. Any more than that, and they'll be subject to a very hefty points penalty in the championship. But let's not get distracted. Let's introduce this man, Joris Petersveem, and well, you will have seen him previously on our GTE grid. A very popular driver, no doubt about it, but unfortunately in GTE Season 1, a very unlucky driver as well, particularly that huge incident at Silverstone that created quite the domino effect when he qualified so well towards the front of the field. But he's back here today in the 351, and we very much look forward to seeing how he will get on as he makes his way through turn number 1 there. He's currently the fastest of everybody in this qualifying session. We also do have newcomers to the grid of Justin Hembury, and we always see him making his way through what is the run on turn number 11 in towards 12 and 13 in the Corvette Z06 GT3 RC8 model. And as the Stingray driver comes on out, well, we welcome him very happily to the grid. He's looking quite quick out there, no doubt about it. And I do believe, whilst he is associated with the Inox Motorsport team, we're in a bit of a different livery today, but I do wonder how they'll work it all out and whether they'll all be in the same livery come the race day and round number 1. Indeed, he's in DNR Motorsports livery machine at the moment, and it might be a sign that he races for multiple teams, depending on championships. But he's currently the 3rd fastest out there. We also do have the return, of course, of Richard Simnor, albeit returning to the grid in the SimRacing International Series, but he was, up until the end of season 17, your defending champion and was the top class of the Sunday UK SimRacing GT3 Series, but he's decided now to dip his toes into the Thursday Championship, and therefore he's new to the Championship, but he's no stranger to SimRacing International, and here today the DCW Racing driver Breeders Corvette. Now I do need to give a big shout out to him, as well as to Denny Ploger and also Martin Brandon, for all of them sharing their replay files. That's how we are able to provide you with this post-round broadcast. The fact that we're not catching the race in action live, and it's because all 3 of them provided their replays, and we are using Richard Simnor's replay here. Not because of bias at all 3 replays were absolutely valid. We've just gone with the first one that we picked off the list there, and did happen to work after we've done our checks. So big thank you to Richard, Denny and Martin for that, and we're very grateful. And there will be a few broadcasts this season that will be post-round, ladies and gentlemen. Not too many of them. We do prefer to have them live wherever possible, but due to scheduling, we will be presenting some of them post-round. But we promise you one thing, every round this season, whether it be in Masters or alternatively in Superstars, will be covered live. And of course, well, not covered live, let me correct myself there, will be covered at some point where it's live or post-round. I'm getting running away there with my words. But also, we should point out the fact that in the Masters, you will typically have in the commentary booth your broadcasting team of none other than Chaz Draycott and Dara Thacker. So you're in very good hands there in Masters, and you're in my hands here in Superstars, and I hope to live up to their abilities. But as we do see Richard Simnor coming on through, well, the number 2 driver right now, not quite number 2 in terms of the running order, he's currently 4th, but he's hoping for a little bit more. Now we also do have DDK Racing Team with the statbot.com team with them, and it's Elliot Court here, one of their 2 drivers. Very happy to see him on the grid, and I've had the pleasure of witnessing Elliot Court race, albeit in a very different discipline on iRacing, in open wheel as part of League Zero's Formula Series based on the North American continent. I can tell you one thing, this man's a little bit of an insomniac, because he does race at some absolutely ungodly times to be able to participate in that series. He is based in the United Kingdom, but one thing that's for certain, he's very quick in the Super Formula SF23 car, and he's very quick, it would seem, in a GT3 car as well, as he's bringing the Mercedes AMG 2020 Evo car to the grid for this pre-season test event. Now he does have a teammate out there as well, and we'll introduce his teammate in due course out on the grid today. But indeed, the team here for DDK Racing, we're very much looking forward to seeing what they're going to be able to deliver. Because his teammate, well, here he is, Raz Harper in the Lamborghini Huracan Evo Mark 1 machine. And as he comes on down, soon to be replaced, of course, by Lamborghini's own model and own engined model. Keep an eye on, of course, that this machine powered by what is a 4.8 V10, a 4.8 litre, I should say, stating the units there, my science brain triggering, as he makes his way through Vanjo and in towards turn number 10. Well, we're very much looking forward to seeing what DDK Racing with the statbot.com team are able to do, given the fact they are very quick drivers and a very notorious team for outright pace. As we give them a warm welcome, we must also give a warm welcome to the grid, Ben Woodgate, as you see him here in the number 33, and he's racing as a privateer, at least today, but I think there are a couple of cars with similar livery, so I think some of the team names still being finalised. So Ben making his debut in the SimRacing International Series, if my notes are correct, and he will be in the 33 at least today in the BMW M4 Evo package. But let's introduce a few more newcomers to this grid. Now, we have got a few names out there which you'll be very familiar with, albeit you'll be familiar with them from the GTE series, and that's Inox Motorsports trio of Benjamin Massey, Matthias Pettinger and Mikhail Eversek. Albeit, are they here today, I hear you ask? Well, Mikhail definitely is. There he is, currently parked up in the pit lane in the Mercedes that's got its back pointing towards us. Well, that is definitely an Inox Motorsport car, and Eversek sat in the car at the moment, but I do believe both Massey and Pettinger not here currently. So therefore, he's made it by himself and putting down some miles for the team. We also do have Bradley Setters here for Relentless Racing, back once again. Very happy to see him on the grid in the number 16. And looking forward to what he's going to be able to do as he weaves and winds his way through the course in the Ford Mustang, the circuit, of course, where the Ford Mustang was unveiled to the world when the prototype car made its initial laps in early testing before it did start to make its way onto the IMSA grids of 2024. And well, as he makes his way onwards here, the 5-litre V8 Coyote engine will be screaming loud. Indeed, the engine will give you tinnitus, but you'll be very happy to lose your hearing in the process. Well, at least that's the way I look at it, ladies and gentlemen, because I have actually had tinnitus triggered as a result of driving this car on iRacing, and I do not complain one bit. Although to be fair. I shouldn't joke about it as a medical condition, but I always make a laugh out of it, because at the end of the day, the sonorous roar of this car, always something to be beholden, whether it be in real life or on the simulator. iRacing have done a brilliant job of modelling it, no doubt about it. As he heads onwards here, currently the 18th fastest in this qualifying session, but still a little bit time left to go, and we haven't quite gone through all the names as of yet, because we do have Brad Pickett here, the privateer, making his way down towards turn 1. He's brand new to the SimRacing International grid, I do believe, and he's brought to the grid today the McLaren 720S Evo. Well, a challenging car to get right, but a very capable car if you're able to carry corner speed with it. That's its strength, is medium corner speed. Low corner speed as well can work nicely. However, this car is very aero pitch sensitive, which makes it very powerful through chicanes, medium and high speed corner sequences in particular. Lower speed ones, it can get quite unstable, but you can dial that out. It is a very aero dependent car, and you can tell that in the bodywork of the British machinery, whereby essentially all the bodywork is leaning onto the nose. It's a very odd car when you look at it from the outside, and when you sit inside it, in fact, can we get on board? Yes, we can. What you'll notice is here, compared to most GT3s, the front is actually not visible to the driver, or it's barely visible, and that is because the driver's cockpit is actually raised looking down over the front of the car. Indeed, some of you might be sat there thinking, is that common seeing a GT3? Not necessarily, but it is. Looking back to the old days of British touring car machines, such as the likes of the Honda Accords around there, where despite having the engine in front, they were able to hide the nose away. Albeit, of course, this McLaren 720S Evo mid-engine rear-wheel drive, so the engine is behind the driver, and the twin-turbo V8 being a derivative of a Japanese Nissan design, as I've been informed in the past. Brad Pickett makes his way onwards, currently 19th fastest out there. Who else is new? Well, we do have a DCW Racing team racing for this season. Of course, we did introduce Richard Simnor, and we will see joining him none other than Mark Collicott and Chris Cole. Now, are they here today? I do not believe so. At least I can't see them on the entry list at the moment. Well, my eyesight isn't always great, to be fair. We're going through a lot of data very quickly, so if we do see them, I do apologise. In fact, as soon as I say it, there is Mark Collicott. Our caravan picks him up, and Mark makes his way on down there in the Porsche 992 at GT3. And Mark, of course, a very established driver, regardless of what he drives, whether it be Formula Ford FF1600, or alternatively, what would be GT4s, or 30 Porsche Cup cars, you name it, he's raced it on the simulator, and a very quick driver at that. And look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do here in GT3. And a warm welcome to the DCW Racing team in our Thursday series. We also do have joining them Chris Cole, but I do believe Chris is not here today, so indeed we only have the two DCW Racing drivers, not the full trio. And well, we also do have here, or joining the grid, we should say, Ollie Smith for Simstrap by Glass Tech Racing, albeit I believe Ollie's not actually here today at Sebring, so we'll see him soon. Meanwhile, we also have the arrival of Leon Seeley in the 246 Corvette, and as he makes his way through there past Mikhail Abasek, well, what do you need to know about this man? Well, what you need to know is he will be joining Milton Tomlinson Dennis, who's not here today, but the two of them will be racing as part of Samantha Tan Racing, the sim racing team dedicated to Samantha Tan, the rather accomplished GT3 racing driver, the lovely lady from the United States of America, and indeed has quite the social media following, but for good reasons, and has also featured quite recently on Misha Chowdhury's Nürburgring channel, whereby Misha took her around for a lap of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and indeed quite a lap it was. And Samantha learning every step of the way. And one thing's for certain, Leon Seeley right now, he's a very accomplished GT3 racing driver on the simulator, and he's definitely going to be touted as one of the favourites here for what could be some big prizes as the season goes on, as his first flying lap puts him to a 59.287, and well, I suspect he's got a bit more in the tank. Now, we also do have new to the grid, Ashley Shuck-Smith, and where is Ashley? Here he is in the Ferrari 296, and well, I shouldn't assume gender to be fair, given the fact that Ashley can be treated as a male and a female's name, or a non-binary name as well, but one thing's that's for certain, no gender bias in the fact he's running a Ferrari, he or she is running a Ferrari, and as the KFC machine makes its way around, I can tell you one thing, it's finger looking good, the car, and also KFC, but as he comes on through, and I wasn't paid to say that, although KFC, if you would like to pay us royalties here at SimRacing International, we're very grateful for sponsorship, or Eve, as a number 13 driver makes his way around. I think a lot of teams will be holding their liveries back when we do get to our season open at the Hockenheim Ring. Nobody quite wants to reveal everything so far. Indeed, we could see everybody change their car before we get to Germany, so therefore don't read too much into it of what car drivers are running, nor the liveries they're running, so it could all change. We also have Adam Lynch here, making his way on around. Good to see him back in the 267 Porsche 992. I look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. And I think that's primarily everybody who we've needed to introduce today as new or making their way onto our grid, new to this grid, but also previously on the SimRacing International Series grids. So with 6 minutes to go, well, we're going to give you an on-board lap of the Sebring circuit next, because of course we always love to do that. And to do so today, we're going to come to not Schubert Cardozo, sadly, although I'd love to have got the on-board lap with Schubert, but he's going to make his way into the pit lane. And well, he's had a very frustrating last couple of seasons. He's been considered to be Mr. Bad Luck or Mr. Bump, in the fact that he's normally been caught up in several incidents, not always his fault to be fair. And well, Schubert and I do have a bit of a running joke, which is no matter what round it is, he's always going to be in the thick of the action until it goes a bit wrong. And well, hopefully for Schubert for season 12, it's going to go a bit right instead. We wish him the best of luck. And I've got my fingers crossed. I'm not allowed to play favourites, but I'll tell you one thing, if one man deserves some better luck, it is Schubert Cardozo. So therefore, if we can't get an on-board lap with him, who can we get an on-board lap with? Well, Leon Seeley's a good candidate as he makes his way across that timeline and onto a flying lap of Sebring. So in towards Gender B and Bend he goes, coming all the way down from 6th gear to 5th gear at the apex there of the corner. Now make his way out at 109 miles an hour. He'll head in towards turn number 3, bringing the car to the right-hand side and hard on the brakes. Trail braking through, making sure not to touch the ABS. And as he comes through turn 3, 4 and then in towards 5, he wants to late apex it as much as possible so that way he can get on the throttle nice and early. Makes his way out, keeps 2 wheels in the white lines. That's the legal limit. Now heading up towards what will be turn number 7. He gets ready to come over to the left-hand side here, and as he does, the car creeping on over, and well, now onto the brakes he goes, 150 metres from the hairpin, all the way down to 2nd gear, decides not to go for first, because this Corvette's got plenty of torque over the rear wheels, as I've been informed by a few drivers, and therefore you won't want to use first gear, because you'll overspin the rear wheels otherwise. Now getting ready to go in towards the left-hander of Fangio, or coming up towards Cunningham at turn number 10. Here onto the brakes he goes, 130 metres from corner apex, down to 3rd gear, and now it's all about getting on the throttle nice and early, get the rear of the car settled down, because it's mid-engine rear-wheel drive, through Collier, and now in towards Tower Bend that turns 12 into 13. Goes wide at 12 to set up his line for 13, lovely line there, nicely through the corner, drops to 3rd from 5th, and going now on towards Bishop Bend here, but there's going to be no chess match here, as he comes in towards the left-hand kink of turn number 14. Instead, he's going to get the car nicely positioned over to the left-hand side, and in preparation for the first part of Le Mans at 15. Onto the brakes he goes, down to 3rd gear, making sure not to go too high on those curves. We'll talk more about that later as he grounds the car there onto the entry point into the main part of Le Mans. Now turn number 16, runs a little bit wide, but just about keeps within track limit. Very tricky corner to get right, but Seeley right now pushing hard here as he makes his way down the back stretch. And as he does, down Alban, only Sunset Bend to go. But you'll see a set of cones on left-hand side shortly. Those denote your turning point, not your braking point, as he chucks the car in at the 50 cone. Now onto the brakes he goes immediately, trail braking all the way down to 4th gear, bouncing around. You can see the transition over the concrete sections there, really shaking the car around. But what a lap from Leon Seeley. This has been a quick lap, but as he heads towards the timeline, how quick is it going to be? And the answer is, it's currently 9th fastest, a 58.487, an impressive lap there, but I think he wants even more before the day is done, but I don't think he's going to go any further, because he's going to tow back to the pit lane, and with 3 minutes that may be it. But Charlie Walker, meanwhile, currently the 8th fastest out there in his Ford Mustang for Relentless Racing, with his teammate following him on around, and that's Bradley Setters just behind, so the two of them trying to work together. A bit further back, Arno Prague here, currently coming out of turn number 16 in the Porsche 992 GT3, and as he does so, he's not got too long. He's got this lap, plus most likely one more. He may be able to creep to him. We do have overtime in qualifying, and we should point out, as per usual, after our qualifying session is complete, we do have a 5-minute warm-up comfort break period for our drivers to be able to go to the bathroom if they need to, or alternatively change the setup of the car, or go get some liquid refreshment. And that is a perfect time for you guys and girls, of course, tuning in to be able to step away for a little bit, go take your own bathroom break, go get yourself a top-up of snacks if you've got some popcorn, or alternatively go grab a bit of liquid refreshment yourself. As Eddie Fearbold, well, he's currently down in 36th place. But Eddie's normally a bit quicker than this as he makes his way in towards Sunset, as Sam Hockley's gone faster. And, well, we are seeing here right now, Fearbold's trying to go a lot quicker. What's it going to be this time? Butler's also improved to 26th on a 59.904. That's Jordan Butler, that is. Fearbold was 36th. He goes to 32nd. We're 2-minute flat, 0.656. Well done to him for that one, the number 40 driver. That's more the pace that we're expecting. He's moving himself forward very gradually. But no lap set for Max Dean, nor for Steve Hughes. Well, in fact, Max Dean has set a lap. I'll correct myself there. Well, he's currently 38 fastest, the lowest of our 40 drivers who've come to Sebring today. But Steve Hughes and Jack Giles have yet to set a lap. As we do see here, Sam Hockley in the Aston Martin V8 Vantage Evo. He's still trying to find a bit of time. Now, the Aston Martin has lost a lot of popularity recently in the GT3 category. Some more recent balance performance updates for 2026 Season 2 of iRacing seem to force the Aston Martin into a little bit of a hidden space. However, also do keep in mind here with the 12 hours of Sebring due to occur the weekend after this race actually occurred. Of course, the 12 hours of Sebring has happened by the time you are catching up with this broadcast, and that's why we're bringing it afterwards rather than over the course of the weekend, because we didn't want you to miss out on the chance to be able to watch this if you were competing in the Sebring 12 hours or watching some friends who were taking part or family members. Well, the point being, not a lot of drivers may be coming to this circuit. It's no coincidence we are running Sebring today, we should point out, to give drivers all the time they can to prepare for the infamous iRacing special event. But what it does mean is you will see several drivers here today potentially running the car they are planning to run in the Sebring 12 hours rather than the car they're planning to run for this season. So therefore, don't be surprised if there's quite a bit of car variety, and suddenly it's all going to be shuffled up and sprung back out when we do go to round number 1 in Germany, because there are multiple mitigating factors here as to why drivers are picking particular cars. And well, if you caught up with Masters last time out, we also got to see what several drivers saying the reason they chose the car to Sebring was to see whether they liked it or not, and if not, eliminate it and go back to a firm favourite. So there's many ways to skin the approach to use the pre-season test day as Thomas Weston completes his qualifying session, and as he does not improve from 28th. He just runs out of time. Well, that was very close there. He may have just snuck through, and if so, he could be on one final lap, although it'll be a bit of a question mark on that one. Charlie Walker comes around, currently 8th fastest, as meanwhile Leighton Austin's going on to an out lap. He's just leaving the pit lane. Charlie Walker makes his way into the pits. He's not going to improve. Meanwhile, I believe Ashley Shucksmith is making his way down. Corey Price is just a bit further behind him. We've also got Setters coming across. Bradley Setters going at 19th on a 2 minute 0.866. So therefore he does not improve. Meanwhile, Shucksmith here improved in the first sector, and the latter half of his lap is looking okay. He seems to be struggling for improvement here in the KFC machine, but is he going to be able to get a brilliant lap? Is he going to be able to treat himself to a bargain bucket for one? And the answer is, well, it's a job well done. It puts him to a 201.092, but unfortunately he hasn't moved up anywhere, so he won't be going any further than starting on the 19th row. Dr. Dwayne Hoffman makes his way on through here, and right now the Full Tilt Motorsport machine, or Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport as it's known in full, the team's name, or FTVM, you'll sometimes see it abbreviated to. He's currently down in 35th place. As he comes roaring on through, we'll definitely letting the data guide him. He is one of those drivers who's a much stronger race driver than he is a qualifying driver, so never ruled him out, always expected to be lightning quick. But it does seem as though the quickest of them all at the very top of the pile is Joris Petersveen on a 58.035, and given the fact we have our top 35 separated by the best part there of what is almost 3 seconds, with Hoffman and Hockley both having the exact same lap time, but Hoffman said it first, so that's why he's going to start ahead. Well, it's a very impressive qualifying session here, because whilst we've got 2 tenths from Petersveen to court on the front row, it's then only a tenth ready from car to car to car. One of the closest qualifying sessions you'll most likely see this season, and to be fair, we're very excited for that, because of course when it's this close in qualifying, it means it could be even closer when we do go green flag racing. But that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. A big well done to Joris Petersveen for taking pole position in the pre-season event. Elliot Court will join on the front row, and then Justin Hembry and Richard Simnor will line up on row 2 behind, and it's going to be a trio of Corvettes 3rd through to 5th, because Brandon Dye is just behind there for Altitude 3M Esports. But with that, our drivers now get the opportunity to take a little bit of a breather. Indeed, nobody's out of the circuit, and we're going to take a quick breather with regards to taking a sip of water or two. Now, whilst we do wait for the transition into the warm-up period and the subsequent 5 minutes before we do go to the grid, what are the things we've noticed here so far? Well, plenty of car variety. We've got quite a few Corvettes. We've got a lot of Mercedes AMG machines. We've also got some Porsches. We even do have one driver who has braved the Audi R8 Evo 2 LMS, the car that is gradually being retired from GT3 racing, with Audi no longer supporting it at the manufacturer level with manufacturer teams, but still supporting through third-party relationships customer teams. And that's Martin Brandon, who has brought the Audi R8 here today in the number 18 car. You need to keep your eyes out for him. The thing about that Audi is a very quick car over a single lap. It's a monster through the corners. The only problem with driving monster cars is that if you can't tame them, they normally come back to bite you very hard, and the Audi is definitely the one that will do that. Many have likened it to the race wrecker in a way, because you'll be going very well, and then suddenly the car will decide to have an attitude of its own and put you into a barrier. But it's because you have to really tame the car and get used to its behaviour. It's probably the car with the highest, if we are going to put it in terms that you'd think of an esports scene, you would think of the highest skill ceiling car, although I do think that's a bit unfair to perhaps badge it that way, because all these cars have unique traits and characteristics. Some are more accessible to drivers compared to others, but they all do have very high skill ceilings, and the Audi perhaps is arguably the hardest to get used to. Now, what's very interesting, if you haven't watched the show, and we don't recommend you go do it now, of course, but if you do follow the FIA World Endurance Championship, do check out the Legends series that they've been doing recently, where they're talking about all the cars on the grid, whether it be GT3 or alternatively the hypercars, the GTP equivalents in IMSA that you'll see on iRacing, because they have been covering all the GT3 machines and speaking to engineers. And what's been very interesting is some of the terminology that the engineers and the teams have used to describe their cars. The Corvette in particular is probably the one that stood out to me the most, because immediately the way that Pratt & Miller's representatives described this car, and the representatives from G&M, General Motors in the USA, is the fact that this car has been made to be as accessible as possible to the gentleman racer. Now, of course, it's no lie in motorsport. There are multiple ways to get into the top tiers, whether it be for essentially working you out from karting from a very young age, alternatively making up a load of money and then deciding to use money to effectively perhaps buy your way in a little bit into motorsport. You do have gentleman drivers, as they're described, that is the term used, for those who perhaps buy their way in. You always need some funding in motorsport, and then you do have the raw talent that gradually comes up through the ranks, with some money to support it as well. But indeed, if you are coming in from the more gentleman approach, if you will, you want to be able to drive a car that is highly accessible, because at the end of the day, you've probably never raced a car on that level of frequency compared to, say, a Max Verstappen or a Lewis Hamilton that's come up all the way through karting. You may have done a few track days, you may have even done a couple of domestic races, but then to go to perhaps a national and international level, well, it is a big step change. And that's what Corvette were really talking about, was the fact that their Z06 GT3 R C8 Stingray model really aims to be as accessible as humanly possible. And that's one of the reasons why some of these cars will be more popular on grids compared to others. Another car that's definitely proved to be a very strong customer car in recent years is the BMW M4, particularly with regards to Team WRT, with the likes of Valentino Rossi joining their ranks, and indeed the transition of the motorcycle race, a very accomplished one, from 2 wheels to 4 wheels, has been a story in its own. The BMW M4 has been an absolutely critical component of that story for Team WRT. But with only 2 minutes to go before we do head to grid, one thing we definitely do want to talk about is the fact that who are your champions or defending champions coming into this season? Well, it's a bit of an interesting one, because you will not be seeing defending champions on this grid. They've all either decided to hang up their keys for a little bit, alternatively they've decided to go to Masters. So last season in the Drivers' Championships, where we had the 4 classes, Split A saw Elite dominated by Ced Ploeg, and he sealed the title around to spare. He will be back in Masters looking to become the Pro champion there. We saw Hayden Miller as the runner-up, and he did absolutely brilliantly, of course, in the Masters pre-season test. Yes, I did get it right there. I'm making sure to speak in Season 12 and Season 11 language at this point. Please forgive me for the loss of terminology. But he was the quickest in the Masters pre-season test here at Sebring at the same time as this race was going on. And Ryan Nicholson won't be on the grid there, because the Split Track Esports team decided to take a break, albeit they were absolutely fantastic and punched well above their weight. Meanwhile, in the Pro category, Reece Saunders was able to take the crown. He was a step ahead of his peers, and he will be back in Masters, looking to go for gold in what will be the new Pro class, if you will. And Fotis Katos, the other member of Split Track Esports, finished second there, and he's not on the grid for this season, we believe. And Mikey Story as well. He was third in the Pro category, and I do not believe he's going to be back for this season. But then coming to Split B, the Premier class was won by Robin Aston, who took the title after only taking 1 win during the season. And you'll see him in Masters, looking to most likely compete for what will be the right to be your Inter champion, as will Victor van Zeest, albeit not on the grid, unfortunately, but he would be in that Inter class if he was competed. He had the most wins in the Premier class last season, but unfortunately didn't have the consistency in order to be able to take the title. And Barry Wenman will be back in Masters for this season, and ended season 11 with a win, his only win of the season. As for the Evo category, where it was Michael Rhodes in it, who won by only 3 points, a very close season with his mid-season form given the edge. Expect him to be back in Masters, and most likely in the Inter, alternatively what will be the Evo categories. And then we do have Joshua Downing, who won't be on the grid for this season, we do believe, and Jan Nuggy will be in Masters, the 3rd place finisher in the Evo class. As for the teams, well, Vulcan Fasters by Glasstech will definitely be back. There'll be multiple Vulcan Fasters and Glasstech racing teams, and they'll be looking to defend their team's crown ahead of Dexterous Motorsports and Split Track Esports. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to make our way to the grid then, because it is time for our first race of the season, albeit it is going to be the pre-season race, therefore there's not as much on the line, but you can understand all of our drivers will be looking to go for gold. But who exactly is going to be taking the ultimate bragging rights, we're about to find out. And as our drivers head onto the grid, well, let's walk you through that grid, and here it is. And as we can see, taking pole position with the fastest lap in the preseason qualifying session, Joris Peters V, about 58.035, and the fastest of everybody by the best part of 2 attempts. Elliot Court will line up alongside him for DDK X Race Stat Bot, and then from them on row number 2, only what was in the end a grand total of 11 thousandths behind, will be Justin Hembry. The Inox Motorsport trial will be in the company of DCW Racing's Richard Simnor, and then we do have Brandon Dyer for Altitude Frame Esports starting 5th. Very tight between these rows, and that thing continues with only 42 thousandths to Ben Woodgate, who starts 6th in his BMW. Then we'll have Raz Harper starting 7th for DDK X Race Stat Bot, and he'll be joined on the full rider grid by Charlie Walker in the Ford Mustang for Relentless Racing. Now, will he relentlessly be pursuing Harper, or will he be relentlessly pursued by Liam Seeley, who starts 9th for Samantha Tam Racing? Left it late in the day in qualifying to get a lap together, but put himself just inside the top 10, and was a 10th quicker than Jared Love, who starts in 10th place for DDK Racing with X Stat Bot. We then do have none other than behind them in 11th place, it's going to be Schubert Cardozo for the Inter Racing team, the number 1 driver there ahead of none other than Leighton Austin for Relentless Racing. It's then going to be Ashley Coutland, his teammate, just behind in 13th place, but ahead of Daniel Page, the Daniel Newman Racing driver for DNR, and then he will only in turn be 6 thousandths faster than Corey Price, the Darkwing Racing driver who starts 15th and splits the field almost in 2. Frank Beeson joins him on the 8th row of the grid, the privateer from South Africa, but ahead there of Adrian Howard, and then we see in 18th place Mikhail Abasek, the Inox Motorsport driver. Then it's going to be round off your top 20, Bradley Setters for Relentless Racing, and none other than Brad Pickett there in 20th, and outside that top 20 in 21st, it is going to be Ross Young for DXT Motorsports ahead of Mark Collicott for DCW Racing. We then have Arno Prague starting in 23rd for MJK Sim Racing, the Dutchman in the hands of his teammate there of Denny Ploger back once again, and good to see him there. Denny, of course, the 3rd place finisher in the Evo Championship in Season 10, very happy with that achievement. Didn't quite have the season he wanted in Season 11, but he's back for glory this time round. And then we will see just behind them, starting in 25th, Stephen Kershaw ahead of Jordan Butler for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, and then we will have just off of them, and indeed he is here today. Indeed, we didn't think he was, but he is. Matthias Pettinger, I think, has decided to start from the pit lane for Inox Motorsport. Several drivers have actually missed the gridding procedure or started from the pit lane instead, and he will be in the company of Thomas Wester, who starts 28th. We'll then see at 29th, it's going to be Adam Lynch ahead of Martin Kenyon. The 2 privateers round off your top 30, and then going a bit further back, we will see in 31st place the Audi of Martin Brandon for Axis Sim Sports, ahead of the privateer of Eddie Fearbold. There's going to be James Fraser for Moonshiners Racing Club. They do have a bit of a reduced presence this season after taking 5th place in the Teams Championship last season, but they're back once again, and it's going to be alongside him Nathan Healy for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, and then joining him will be the machinery of none other than Dwayne Hoffman in 35th place ahead of Sam Hockley, and then we will see Ashley Shucksmith starting 37th ahead of Max Dean, and not setting lap in qualifying to round off your 40 drivers here today for the pre-season test event should they make it onto the grid. Steve Hughes, the Welshman, and Jack Giles, the Briton from Euro Titans Endurance. So that's how they all line up, ladies and gentlemen. All drivers absolutely itching and set to go. We've got a few pit lane starters, as we did mention only moments ago, and those seem to be none other than Jack Giles, Mark Collicott, Steve Hughes, and Matthias Pettinger if they do make the way out. Otherwise, we may be down to 36 cars before we've even gone green flag racing. But to be fair, there is no compulsory expectation that drivers are to finish this race, although if they are going to take part in the race, of course, they need to adhere to the rules, and practice makes perfect, as they say, so why wouldn't you go racing today? Whereas this formation lap is almost 2/3 done. Indeed, they make the way back now to the old taxiways. Well, Joris Peters Beam here knows that he's definitely got a fun task ahead of him. It was Elliot Court who joins him on that front row. We're very eager to try and find a way to beat the BMW off the line. We know this Mercedes is blazingly quick on the straight and outer corners, but the problem with it is it has so much torque over the rear wheels with its 6.3 litre V8 engine, and we do know there's a new Mercedes machine coming for 2027 in the GT3 category. It was unveiled only a week ago. Will Elliot Court be hoping to get the best possible launch? Meanwhile, the turbo-based machine, that BMW, its 6-cylinder engine, a bit smoother with the power input, and therefore can be a little bit easier to run out those lower speed corners, but it'll be intrigued between them. And further back, of course, we do have Ben Woodgate and none other Raz Harper close together, William Seeley also in the mix there, and Charlie Walker, so it's a very tight top 10. A bit further back, keep your eyes out for the likes of Ross Young, for example, for DXT Motorsports, and also Brad Pickett as they look to try and fight their way forward. But as this field all comes together, and double file formation, as it always starts in GT3 racing, we look back to the front of the field, and Joris Peters Dream gets ready to take us to the grid for 60 minutes of racing action in the pre-season event for Season 12 of the Thursday GT3 Championship, and you're tuned in to the Superstars on iRacing. And And it's lights out and away we go for our first event of the season, the Superstars, as they draw the way away down towards turn number 1. All the drivers fan out there. It's going to be 4-5 wide, and that's going to be Corvettes and plenty into the apex agenda being bed, as well taps to the rear there of Brandon Dyer's car. In fact, not Brandon Dyer's, but it all goes wrong for several drivers there. BMW being sent sideways, cars into the barriers. They all get caught here, and cars come skidding back on the road. Oh, goodness me, it's all in pieces. Well, they've even made it 3 corners. Frank Boosterson's car's in bits, so is the relentless racing car there parked up, and it's been an absolute disaster for so many drivers, but those have been able to avoid the contact. Well, they seemingly have survived and moved on. Justin Henry looks so he's struggling out. I think there's some damage to that car, but meanwhile, a lot of the drivers still away. Joris Peters been dodging it all, but who else got caught up there? We did have Ben Woodgate, Jared Love, Corey Price, Frank Boosterson, Raz Harper, Ben Woodgate, just to name a few. But meanwhile, we'll come back to that and get a few replays shortly, as meanwhile, plenty of fighting still going on here, as this is further down the order. There's, oh, let's give me contact, let's get send the Audi wide. Oh my good lord! And Martin Brandon comes scooping across the road, as meanwhile, Healy's car gets sent up into the air there, and Martin Brandon right now sent around like a ping pong ball, and in the end, well, Eddie Fearbold with him there, and Schubert Cardozo as well. It's absolutely grim, it's all in bits, and I can tell you one thing right now, they're going to get out of the system here in the pre-season event, and surely it's going to be a much cleaner start to the Hockenheimring, but definitely get it all out of the system now where it doesn't matter, and therefore put penny to pay to price when they do go racing in round number 1 in the week's time. But it does seem as though they're just a few drivers getting it a bit wrong, but of course they all need to settle down. It is like the first day back at school, or you could say that this is the preschool event, if you will, whereby they have the opportunity to meet each other, and then they'll be taking the lessons or the examination when they do get to round number 1. But right now, looking to pass his test here before he's even sat down to take it. Joris Peters been trying to break away, but Richard Sidwell is right with him. And the Corvette driver here close. Looking to get a little bit closer as he makes his way on down. The answer is maybe. The DCW Racing Corvette definitely looking quick here. Lovely looking car, that livery as well. But Peters been holding his ground as they come towards the end of lap number 1. As they head on round, Brandon Knight and Liam Seeley both staying with them at the moment. But it does seem then the Corvette's looking quite strong here at Sebring. However, of course, it's a whole season of race ahead. So where it may be strong today in a round that doesn't really matter, well, next time out, they'll definitely want a car that's a bit stronger and a good balance over the course of the season where possible. But that's where all the pre-season testing comes in for these drivers. But as we do look a bit further back, Brad Pickett there in 11th place in the McLaren, followed by McLaren of Ross Young, but he's trying to chase down Arno Brogd and Adrian Howard as they roll the way through turn number 1 up towards turn number 3 once again. Definitely a very dramatic start to the race. We are already down to 27 runners at the moment. Several cars having to be towed. That's going to be a trip wide. Car going sideways as well. That's Max Dean going very, very sideways. And the 1-2 Porsche there gets itself back together in the nick of time. As we do see a front bumper missing from Leighton Austin's car. That's not how it came out of the box. You can see the image there at the bottom center of your screen, which explains how the car should look. But Leighton Austin's relentless racing car right now definitely minus a front bumper. And I don't think that was by design. He got caught up in all the chaos at the start. He started 12th, he's down to 22nd, but to be fair, he's carried on. That fast repair will be beckoning to him when he can come into the pits, and with a 75% fuel load, it does mean that pit window now is a little bit wider at most circuits compared to last season, so that will help drivers out. But meanwhile, Mikhail Avasek here, side by side with Ross Young. Young trying to go around the outside of turn number 10. What can the McLaren driver hold on here? Because Avasek is the aggressor, as we do see Thomas Weston starting to get involved. Avasek's going to run out a little bit of tarmac there, although he does find his way to the inside into turn 13. They almost touch there. Avasek just in. Lovely move there for Mikhail Avasek, and he takes that place. Now onwards he goes. They make the way up towards what will be turn number 14. But as our 54 driver here makes his way rampant, what's going to be the next part of the game plan here as they make the way onto the brakes? The answer, well, he needs to chase down at Brad Pickett when he can, but that's going to be easier said than done when you've got Ross Young and Thomas Weston watching very closely behind. Coming out to Le Mans corner, you can see the Mercedes now start to pull away a little bit. That's the ability of that 6.3 litre naturally aspirated V8 engine, which has got so much engine power, and it will look safe. As he heads on down, Avasek looking in control, as Arno Bragg, meanwhile, he's side by side here as they make the way through the corner. To wide Brad Pickett at this time, albeit can't find a way in at the end right now. We'll be hoping he might be able to do so a little bit later. As he comes through, looks the inside, so later's going to be soon in fact, and get ready to go onto the brakes here. It's towards Enderby Bend. Will he get it done for 10th place? The answer is no. He has to brake quite early, and the Jägermeister machine in the end not able to land the bomb, but instead trying to build up to an opportunity a bit later on. Back to James Fraser, the Moonshiners Racing Club driver in the 222 on the back there of Ashley Shucksmith. Indeed, had a bit of a difficult start of their own, both drivers, although they have made place, it should be said. And hold on a second, is that car parked up and turned? Yes, it is. That Stephen Kershaw trying to come back on. What on earth has happened to the privateer? Well, as we do see there, Max Dean coming on through, and also there none other than a lap down Mercedes in the form of, I do believe, the car of Frank Boosterson. That's multiple laps down at this point. Well, Kershaw's able to get things wrangled back together. That's a surprise and not a welcome one. with Joris Petersveen in the 3-5-1. Well, right now he's got Richard Simnor and Brandon Dye increasingly close to him. Indeed, right now they're absolutely piling on the pressure. And whilst you do love to see it for the purposes of battling, I get the feeling that he won't love to see it in terms of the fact he's got cars queuing up behind him. It's not a happy place to be right now, and therefore it does mean for Petersveen, he's going to think a little bit more about strategy here, but this will be good. It'll be a good test of what exactly he's going to be able to do when it comes to the race days where the points are on the line, and just how hard he's going to work, as Brandon Dyer, meanwhile, is watching it very closely behind and hoping that he can potentially get involved just a little bit more. We'll see what's to be here as he tries to make the way out the corner, and upwards they'll go towards the end of this lap, and plenty more. Right now they're just staying together there. And it's looking close. No sign in at this time, unless Brandon Dye is going to think about it here in towards sunset. The answer is yes, he is. He is going to squeeze at the last possible moment, and he goes for it. Simnor has to open the door there, and I don't think Simnor expects her to do that, and then he does come back at him now as they make the way through the corner, and down they come towards turn number 1. But as they do, 2 wide they go. So this will give Petersveen a little bit of breathing room as he sets the fastest lap of the race, a 59.517. So lap time's gradually coming down, and Dye will take that second place there. Cheeky move up the inside, but Brandon Dye then going all in for it, and well, you love to see it, but Richard Simnor right now is going to try and come back at him into turn number 3. That's not going to work. He's too close in the end. Meanwhile, we do have a bit of chop and change here. That's Thomas Weston right now, chasing after what will be Ross Young, and then Mikael Avocet and Arne Prague all together. Prague has fallen back after battling with Brad Pickett only a couple of laps ago, so therefore now Prague is definitely under a bit of increasing pressure. But we ride on board here with the number 11 driver, and he comes on through the bends. Well, right now, definitely, I think, itching for a bit of a fight. Understandably, that fight is not going to be coming forward too easily when everyone's got the draft of the next car. So therefore, it does mean he's going to wait for an opportunity. He's going to wait until somebody else makes an error. But will there be an error from a driver? That's the question. And the answer seems to be no, at least not at the moment. So it will stay in possession. Schubert Cardozo in a very heavily damaged inter-racing team Aston Martin. Well, it's definitely not meant to be missing that front bumper, but he is missing the front bumper at the moment. Looks like the inside goes to dive on James Fraser. Well, in the end, he's not going to have his enthusiasm dampened without the front bumper, and it's going to be a straightforward move there up the inside. So, lovely move from the number 1 driver, and next up is Ashley Shucksmith. But with that, we need to take a look back at all the madness that played out on that opening lap when we did go green flag racing. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a bit of a trip back in time. So as the drivers all made their way through the final bend and went green flag racing, what exactly went wrong, I hear you ask? Well, we have to find out. So they all went green and the whole field spread out. It wasn't on the race start where it went wrong, to be fair. It was a little bit later on as they all came down towards turn number 1. Everyone fanned out there. Well, when exactly did it go wrong for somebody? It was a BMW that got sent very sideways. I think that's what started it. There it was. That was the BMW being turned. I think that was the BMW of Ben Woodgate. Well, in fact, Woodgate right in the midst of it. Oh, he was caught in the secondary contact there. I think he was the first car to be collected, and there was a car rolling back on. But Ben Woodgate was definitely at the core of it all going a bit wrong. This is what it looked like from Woodgate's perspective when he did go green flag racing. So the whole field got ready to go, and then it did. As it did so, we'll try to get the power down as quickly as he could. And, well, didn't exactly have the best of starts, but to be fair, had a decent one at that. And now it was all about trying to thread his way into the mix. Looking up from the outside here, and we're looking okay. Trying to see where he could thread the needle between the top 2. And as he went a little bit wide, he's going to get a bit of a biff on the rear left quarter side. And that's what sent him sideways. And after that, well, unfortunately, he was at the mercy of his car. Got it together, and he was crowded at that point. We looked at the exterior camera, and the relentless racing machines coming around him, and they all got picked up together. So a bit of a nightmare there, that one. Went wrong. Frank Bujesen was him further down the order, and we took a look back to what happened to him. He was in the midst of it all. He tried to make haste out of it, but in the end, did he even make hay? The answer is no, he did not. He got collected there by the DDK Racing Ford Mustang that came spearing back onto the road. That was Jared Love's car. Jared Love changing team, but unfortunately things have gone a bit wrong for him once again, and that's what sort of all come together. So a bit of a nightmare there as he had to tow into the pit lane, and we had this from Corey Price in that instant. This was Price making his way back on in the very heavily damaged Mercedes, and I don't think he had control of the car at that point, but it did seem to revolve all around Ben Woodgate, get a small tap, and then it was like a pack of dominoes. They all fell. But with it going wrong for them, this was Jordan Butler on lap number 2. And for Jordan Butler, things went a little bit wrong in towards turn number 1 at Gender Bien. What exactly did go wrong, I hear you ask? And the answer to that question is he just went wide, very wide. There came a bit too much speed, as Max Dean went sideways there and did his best Fast and Furious Tokyo drift impression, albeit he won't be wanting to do that when we go green flag racing at the Hockenheim ring. So that explains it all, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we also did have this for Daniel Page on lap number 3. So this is where it went a bit wrong for the DNR racing driver, as he came in towards turn number 1. Gender being once again striking hard, but it was just a brief run wide there for the Corvette driver. Nothing more and nothing less. So able to get away with that one much more easily. And we're going to make our way now back to your live racing action. And as we do, we're still plenty more time to be in this race. Indeed, we are only the best part of 10 minutes in. We've got plenty of distance still to go. And as our drivers carry on, well, we look all the way back to the front of the field. Joris Petersveen, Brandon Dye and Richard Simnor together. And well, the gap between these three still oscillating around 1.5 seconds in totality. No real change between them as they come on. And we'll further back, Brad Pickett battling side by side with Bradley Setters. They make their way into that braking zone. Is going to be a change of position? The answer is yes. Pickett goes up the inside. Lovely move from Pickett, and he will take that place as quick as that. So he'll be pleased. But now Setters tries to come back here. The Ford Mustang, of course, thirsts for a position, and it now looks the inside. And going in towards turn number 10, will he go for it into Cunningham Bend? The answer is yes, no, not quite in fact, as he just backs off there. Can't beat the McLaren on the brakes as much as he would like to. And there you can see the differences in the cars very slightly, with that Mustang definitely all about the straight line speed and acceleration. It was a very heavy car, which means it can absolutely assail the curbs, but the problem is it does not have stronger brakes. Indeed, it's very heavy on its brakes, and it can be very at risk of overheating the front brakes, as many drivers have found out in the past when it leans into the ABS too much. But as we do see Martin Kenyon and Jordan Butler, Butler's just found his way past Kenyon. We may get a replay of that in short order. They're good little battle. These drivers definitely enjoy themselves out there and keep having a good old ding-dong scrap. Ways I'd love to see. But coming on through these corners right now, and as they do, well, looking at further behind them, we have none other than what will be James Fraser, still trying to chase after Ashley Shuck-Smith in the battle of the two Ferraris. Albeit it does seem as though they're trying to race the car, but driver right now falling a bit further back by comparison, and therefore might just be simply trying to see if he can stay on the pace of his fellow Ferrari driver, rather than trying to adventure forward this time, which would make sense to be fair. I think it's going to be a bit more about the patience at this time as we start to get towards the end of the opening quarter of this race, and therefore strategy might start to become an increasing full process instead. Although to be fair, we'll wait and see what is to come. But as he makes his way on through, we look to Jordan Butler. Back up the road we go. And Butler for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport right now. In 19th place with Martin Kenyon just behind. And you can see everyone settling down right now into their small packs here. And I think everyone's starting to figure out the bigger picture. And after that scary start for so many drivers, I wouldn't be surprised if everyone right now has had a few instant points taken away from them. And therefore they'll all be thinking to themselves, you know what? We've survived it, now we've just got to make sure we survive the rest of the race. Albeit it's easy to say it, it's another thing to be able to do it. Now Dwayne Hoffman was one of the biggest gainers of all the chaos in the opening lap. The American driver for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport making his way down towards the hairpin at turn number 7, and he's moved all the way from 35th to 17th place. Sam Hockley has done the exact same. He's gained 18 places from 36th to 18th. So these two definitely survivors of everything that happened, it could be said. I'm very pleased with that. In terms of the places gained by drivers, because there's definitely been some big gains out there, we show that on the top of your screen. And there you can see the gains made by several drivers, albeit slightly erroneous, but we can definitely see where's the gains there. And the biggest gainers of them all, of course, none other than Hoffman and also Hockley together. And you do have some significant gains on the likes of Daniel Page, who currently runs in 6th place after making his way all the way from what was a 14th place start. Coming down, he still has Charlie Walker and Adrian Howe for close company as they make their way towards the end of lap number 7. And our leaders, meanwhile, about to go on to lap number 8. And Petersveen, as much as he was 2/10 faster in qualifying compared to the rest of the field, of course, he's been able to steer clear of Elliott Court, who got caught up in the overlap incident. Well, Brandon Dye is there with him, and Richard Simnor's falling a little bit further back. So it looks like the Altitude 3M eSports driver is now starting to up the tempo a little bit as we ride on board with the 58. As he makes way in towards turn number 3, is this a sign of an opportunity to come, or is this just simply him pacing himself right now and getting ready to pounce? Well, it could be one or the other. I think the thought here is that Brandon Dye is trying to put as much pressure as he can on Petersveen, and therefore see if he can goad the BMW driver into an error, and therefore pick up the place quite easily. think by staying this close as well, he can naturally save some fuel. Looks the inside there for the hairpin. He's going to go for it. Surely not from that far back. No, he's just teasing it out there, trying to get into Peter Sveen's head and trying to make him make a mistake. I was going to say, if he's going it from that far back, how many first-class stamps has he bought with him stakes? He's going to need to lick them all and put them all on the car in order to be able to send that package that fast. Indeed, he's going to need DHL special delivery at that point. Coming in towards turn number 10 at the moment. Dyer definitely just keeping us guessing for now. But to be fair, very talented driver, and no wonder he's trying to keep everyone guessing here as he winds his way up towards Tower. But looking around the outside again there, and you can see those very aggressive moves. They don't do anything for the tyres. They actually heat the tyres up a little more, but it looks absolutely brilliant on the broadcast. But what it also does, it's the natural thing. Human beings, what are we naturally drawn to with our eyes? We are drawn to moving objects. There is the running thought, of course, the fact that if you move slowly enough, you won't be seen. Taken from the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, although I don't remember the quote off by heart. But it is very true, the fact that your eyes are more naturally gravitating towards moving objects rather than stationary ones. So by Dyer doing that, really pushing the car around the circuit behind Peter Sveen a little bit, he's just trying to make sure the 351 driver can never stay truly focused on his dyno. He's more likely to look in his rear view mirror, and if he does so, well, he's more likely to miss a braking point or a turning point for a corner. And particularly when so many of the corners around here rely on you remembering a 90 turning point, such as Sunset Bend, well, a small mistake there could absolutely add up very nicely for our second place runner. But on to the next course of the race they go, and as they do, we look back to Thomas Weston. He's still battling here for 10th place with Mikhail Abasek. Well, in towards Sunset he comes, looking up the inside. Abasek tries to come across, but the Ferrari drives there. Contact between the two of them. Weston does get it done. The Ray-Ban machine moving forward, but understandably, I don't think Abasek will be too pleased about the contact, although he doesn't flash his headlights there, which is normally the universal racer's Morse code, which can be the equivalent there to a few swear words being flashed at another driver, albeit the way they do Morse code in these cars is crazy. I'm not quite sure which flash is for a dit and which one is for a dot, but either way, well, the Slovenian driver now getting back onto the attack, as he looks now for a move in towards turn at number 3. From here, we come back to Peter Sveen and Brandon Dyer. That gap down to 1.5 tenths of the apex there, and Richard Simnell's been brought slowly back into this, so these two definitely enjoying the battle. That is building at a rate of knots, little by little. But right now, Brandon Dyer, he's going to go for the move here, and Peter Sveen defends it hard in towards turn number 10. And right now, I think our BMW leader is feeling that pressure. We look back from the rear, looking out the back of the car, and you can see Brandon Dyer absolutely going brazenly for this one. Switches back there to the inside, then goes back to the racing line. He's all over the back of Peter Sveen like a bad rash here. No matter how much you scratch it, it's just getting worse. It's getting redder, or in this case right now, it's going to feel sorer and sorer here as Brandon Dyer looks to try and attack. Now he's going to be able to find a move, looking for a Bishop Bend. Will he go into the first part of the body? He's going to go up the inside. Oh, well, in he goes. Two wide they come through the right, in towards the left-hand king, and it'll be the main part of Le Mans here. And we'll carry on through. Brandon Dyer will take the lead. Classic move. But now will Peter Sveen be able to use the straight line speed advantage that BMW does have over the Corvette? It's a small one, but it is a notable one. Will he be able to come back, particularly when they get into 5th and 6th gear? The answer is yes, he will. Dyer having to go defensive here. The Corvette's quite good on its brakes as well, so that will give him about what will be 2 meters of travel into the corner. But Peter Sveen's going to try and go around the outside here all the way initially. But now what will he do? Will he switch back to the inside on exit? He tries to, but the BMW understeers a little bit there. You can see Dyer just holds his line, holds the middle of the road effectively, and is comfy into lead now for what is the start of the next lap. But by the end of turn 1, will he still be there? Well, he goes defensive again. It's going to be Peter Sveen looking around the outside, switching to the inside at the last possible moment. And Richard Simnell now right on the back of this group here and trying to play the third player role, which is get involved. Further back, we do see Leon Seeley. A bit lonely at this point for the Samantha Tan racing team, but understandably, I think his thought process is going to be, if they're all fighting in front of me, I might be able to catch up. His pace has been typically 3 to 4 attempts a lap slower as he goes a little bit sideways there coming out of turn number 5. That's not something you want to do. That exit curve there does not pull any punches when you get it wrong. But meanwhile, back to the leaders, and Dyer going defensive, essentially having to do what he was doing to Peter Sveen only moments ago, which is now have to defend every corner as he wants Simnell to play a role here. And I think right now they're not part of the same team. They won't be on the radio to each other, but I think Brandon Dyer is saying under his helmet, come on Richard, help me out here. You want that second place, don't you? But I think Richard Simnell here, knowing his strategic mind, all he's simply doing the British driver at this point, is sitting behind him and thinking, you know what, if you're going to annoy each other, I'll just save fuel behind. I'll glue myself to the back of the BMW or the Corvette, it doesn't matter, and I'll give myself a strategic advantage later on in the race. Of course, that could come back to bite him if suddenly what ends up happening is Peter Sveen makes a mistake, loses Brandon Dyer in the process, and Simnell can't find a way through because he's too close to be able to take evasive action. Not saying they're going to come into contact. The point is, if Simnell has to back off, and naturally the two drivers trying to chase down the leader suddenly end up losing the leader, that's when that approach of being passive in third can really come back to haunt you, or later in the race as well, but we've got a lot of race time remaining, given the fact that we are only, what is 20 minutes into the race come the end of this lap. We are expecting to see the best part of 30 laps here today, if not 31. These drivers right now definitely enjoying themselves out there, and it's brilliant to see why, because we can see Richard Simnel waiting for the opportunity to pounce. Mikhail Abasek still behind Thomas Weston in the fight for 10th place. No change between these two at the moment. They stay exactly as they are. And after, it was a little bit of a firm move from Weston. But to be fair, mistakes get made. And I'm sure the two drivers will talk about it afterwards. And I don't think there's going to be a kicking or screaming to the stewards from Mikhail Abasek. He's definitely one of those drivers who understands when things do go wrong. He's more, and indeed many of these drivers here do appreciate the fact that the driver can get it wrong once. And it's normally what is make it a mistake once. It's okay. Make it twice. It's questionable. Make it 3 times. It's slam dunk. You're going to the steward's room. But meanwhile, Denny Ploger looking up the inside of Adam Lynch in the battle to be the perfect Porsche. And indeed, these two right now, the second and third highest Porsches racing around here. Arno Brandt is 4 seconds up the road. But he is going to the Dutch contingent, trying to make it a 1-2 in the Porsche category. We do see Ploger looking from one side to the other. Goes to the switchback here. In towards turn 1, the MJK SimRacing driver in the lean green racing machine. Here he comes, and as he goes all in the end, you can see Lynch goes to turn in, and suddenly finds out that's not going to work. And we look back now from the number 12. That's a place taken in towards 15th. And Lynch has now got Dwayne Hoffman and Sam Hockley queuing up behind, albeit you can see a long queue of cars for him with John Butler also there. So everyone right now keeping a stern eye on each other and waiting for the next move to come, and how exactly will it serve to shake things up. As they power the way down and towards what will be turn at number 7. Of course, the home to that big incident as well in the open lap, which we didn't get you any replays of, and we do apologise for that. What we can see, there's going to be a move around the outside from Adam Lynch and Dwayne Hoffman. Well, in the end, with Lynch not making the move, gets just that little bit closer. But Hockley and Butler are together, albeit one of these cars in this running order is not in the lead lap, and that would be Ashley Coutland, who you see here for Relentless Racing. He is a lap down in 29th place. It's going to be a bit frustrating, but not as what was almost frustrating now. I thought Denny Ploger was going to have a big sense on him there by Adam Lynch, and Lynch just simply trying to pose a bit of a threat there, but not actually materialise one. Indeed, they say actions speak louder than words, but sometimes car position speaks louder than actually going for a move. But Denny Ploger's not listening to that as he makes one out. He holds himself in 15th place at the time. As they make the way now down towards Le Mans Bend, we take a quick look back, ladies and gentlemen, at some of the battling moments from this run of the race. And, well, in particular, of course, we do get to take a look back at Jordan Butler making a bit of haste with Martin Kenyon for a brilliant battle. And here is a replay of their battle on lap number 6. So this was the two drivers making their way on through the corner, and as they did, well, Kenyon having to go a little bit wrong there, and well, in the end it was going to be Butler trying to make the progress. And did he get the move? And in the end, the answer is yes, he did, as it was Butler in the Mercedes on the inside, Kenyon going a bit sideways, coming out to turn number 7, and Butler in the end made sure to absolutely deliver the goods there with that overtake. But with that, as our overlay just refreshed itself, we do apologise for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these drivers rolling on through, and as they do, well, let's take a look back at one of the other battling moments for Bradley Setters. Now, this was Setters making his way in towards turn at number 17. When exactly went wrong here, he was at the time chasing after Brad Pickett for 9th place. Car went very sideways there. Did he keep it pointing in the right direction? Just about, but the tyres in that Ford Mustang are going to be feeling a lot hotter than they would have done. He's definitely slid sideways there. The good news is it came to a halt quite quickly, so he will not have put too big a flat spot in the tyre, just a minor one instead. We also did have this on lap number 8 for Charlie Walker. This was a move on, I believe, what was the machinery of none other than Daniel Page, unless I'm mistaken. Was he made his way onwards? In fact, it was not a move, it was Daniel Page having a bit of a discontinuity in his connection. So that explains what happened there. So we do apologise for the confusion. And then, of course, we did have this from Jack Giles making his way on through. When in fact, Giles not making any places there. I do believe both drivers out of the race, so therefore a bit of a technical error with that one in terms of being caught up with battle. And we had this for Schubert Cardozo battling with none other than Leighton Austin. They were too wide, going through Bishop Bend. This was on lap number 9, and as they made their way into that braking zone, Cardozo on the inside, it's turn 15 there and getting the move done versus Leighton Austin, trying to come back at him, but in Austin his own wounded Mercedes, not quite able to make that progress. And of course on lap number 11, we just had Denny Ploger make this brilliant move on Adam Lynch. This was going down towards turn number 1 on the inside, went all in for it, and well, classic move being made very quickly here and getting the job done in the number 12. So that was up to 15th place for Denny Ploger, and we make our way back to your live racing. As we do, we've still more time to unfold in this one, no doubt about it, as we do see right now 36 minutes still on the clock. We're getting closer and closer towards that halfway point of the race, and as we do, well, it means now pit stops are starting to become a bigger and bigger fault. Of course, we are expecting that our drivers will be able to go longer on these fuel tanks. They will most likely have a pit window which is around about 30 to 40 minutes either side of the centre point of the race. So in other words, 15 minutes one way, 15 minutes the other way, or 20 minutes one way and 20 minutes the other way. So therefore there's a lot of flexibility here. And what's the typical thing we do see with pit stops? Well, Martin Kenyon is making one. That's not a typical theme, but that's an observation as he comes on in from what was at the time 21st. So that releases Ashley Shucksmith, James Fraser and Stephen Kershaw on past, of which we see the 21st driver here. But what is important about this is the fact that normally what we see is those who are inside the top 10 or the top 15, they go for the overcut strategy. They go as long as possible because they don't want to risk coming out behind drivers who have yet to pit and maybe battling with other drivers. And remember, there's no expectation if you come out behind a driver who's on the lead lap who has not pitted, there's no expectation they're going to pull aside. They may actually battle you. And the reasons for that may be because they're trying to help out teammates elsewhere in the championship. Alternatively, what they're trying to do is use you as a bit of a buffer to one of their rivals behind who is yet to pit as well, who might be close. So you've always got that risk, but what you do normally see as a result is those drivers who are further down the order, normally outside the top 15, particularly outside the top 20, they've got less to risk in a way, unless of course they're battling for class position all the way down there, so therefore they will normally come in a bit early and go for the undercut. What normally works, well, it's very track dependent. We have seen the undercut be very powerful at some places. In fact, when we have visited Sebring in the past, the undercut has been monstrous sometimes, so that's always a fault there. But what we've also seen is that sometimes the overcut can be very good, because if you avoid all the battles and you have clear track around you, you have no pressure other than the pressure you put on yourself to keep pumping out very good laps. You essentially turn it into a bit of a time trial session while you're lonely out there. But right now, not lonely in 10th place is Thomas Weston, with Mikhail Avasek thinking about to move once again, but he can't quite make that move into Agenda being bent. Staying there at this time, but definitely this fight for 10th place is starting to brew. But meanwhile, what is not brewing, in fact, if anything, it's going cold on the hob at the moment, is the battle for the lead, because Brandon Dyer, after having Joris Peters been chasing very closely for a couple of laps, well, the Altitude 3M Esports driver has now started to extract a bit of a lead. And that is a sign here. We think he might have got the upper hand. Despite qualifying 5th, he wasn't the fastest in qualifying, but he's definitely looking very quick in the race. Of course, we must caveat that with the fact that your second place starter of Elliot Court was out of the race come the end of turn number 1, let alone lap number 1. And also we did see the retirement of a couple of other of our bigger names right towards the front of the field, where if they were still there, you'd have to ask, would it be a 5-way fight for lead at the moment, or even bigger? Well, that's always a big what-if question we can never quite get the answer to. But what we can get the answers to is what's happening on the road at the moment. And we do have Denny Ploger coming out the pit lane very shortly. He's decided to come in from what was at the time 15th place. And the NJK SimRacing driver, does he get ahead of Martin Kenyon? He's going to hope he does. Kenyon's very close here. And Ploger just stays ahead of the McLaren driver. But Kenyon's going to look for the move here into turn 3. No, he's not. In fact, he stays behind. But those are your two leading drivers who have made pit stops so far. So do keep that in mind, that right now Denny Ploger is the highest place driver who's made a pit stop. And then everybody else above him has yet to pit. James Fraser, he's under pressure from Stephen Kershaw, as Kershaw's going to try and make the move there. Goes Winders Kershaw, that's 21st place. I think Fraser a bit slow coming through Fangio Bend, and I wonder if there's a bit of a mistake coming out of the hairpin, because Kershaw absolutely flew on past him as they make their way towards turn number 13. Well, meanwhile, what else is there in play? Well, we do see Jordan Butler right now, still having the heavily wounded Aston Martin of Schubert Cardozo right behind him. As he tries head on down the backstretch, heading down Ullman. It's going to be Cardozo up the inside. And Butler right now letting this place go. Well, it seems the full tilt virtual motorsport driver, perhaps priding himself on the fact that really here right now what he needs to think about more is what is to come. And as they battle their way through that right-hander, or the 195 here, just so he lets Cardozo take the place. But I think there's a bit more strategy at stake here. And Rudd would use Cardozo as a little bit of a pace car, given that Cardozo did start 11th today, whereas Butler started in 26th. So the theory is, and I think Butler's catching on to this theory, why would I battle a driver who's quicker than me before we've even completed half the race? As we do see a bit of a run wide there from a car just in front. That was, I believe, a Porsche going a bit wide. And that was Adam Lynch taking a bit of a trip to the grass. We're just about keeping it in track limits. Meanwhile, Ross Young and Bradley Setters, they're side by side here coming down towards the hairpin. Setters on the right, see a picture on the outside in the Ford Mustang for Relentless Racing. They both come onto the stop, and in the end it is going to be Young who gets the better exit initially, but now, of course, on a wider exit line, Setters is going to be able to get the power down that Mustang. It's going to be V8 naturally aspirated on the right, turbo-based V8 on the left. Both on the brakes here in towards Cunningham Bend. Too wide they enter, but on the outside line, Setters is going to need to really poke his nose into 11. He does so for Collier. This is going to be absolutely brilliant into Tao. Then they're still too wide all the way through. And right now, well, surely Young's got to have this as Setters tries to squeeze into the apex there to give himself as much racing room as possible. It works. Young falls back there, and Bradley Setters moves back into 12th place. But great battle between them. Arno Prague is right behind. So Prague right now, the MJK SimRacing driver, wants to play catch up where he can. The problem is they make the way in towards Le Bon Ben. They're not going to be fighting long enough for him to really get involved, but great fight there between Setters and Young, and we want to see even more of that, and I suspect we will over the course of the season between them, assuming they're in the same class. But meanwhile, whilst this is going on, Prague is trying to give chase. We'll look a little bit further back to it later, Austin. And side by side here with Denny Ploger, and keep in mind that Austin has yet to pit. Ploger has pitted, so this is not ideal for the number 12 Porsche right now, having to scrap with a driver who has yet to pit. Austin is allowed to do so, and keep in mind, of course, he started 12th place, so he's very eager to try and make up all the places he can after a disastrous start. And Austin definitely looking to be right now on course for a bit of a recovery drive. The next target is James Fraser, 22 seconds up the road. Now Sam Hockley here can make his way onwards as Adam Lynch comes into the pit lane. The Aston Martin driver will take the place then. He'll be happy with that to move up into 60th. Now his next target is Dwayne Hoffman, and Lynch meanwhile gradually make his way on down pit road with the privateer. Comes into his pit box, and will be a standard stop there, I suspect, and the car will be serviced rather quickly. Brandon Dyer, we've looked back to your leader then. No signs of him wanting to flex his muscles into the pit lane as of yet, as yours Peter Zweem and Richard Simnor now 2 seconds behind. The DCW Racing driver still playing the game of chase as we ride on board the dashboard here of the British driver's car, and as it makes its way on through, well, right now Simnor definitely in a bit of a hurry. I suspect the problem is going to be at this moment in the fact that he's just not able to get any closer. He can stay there and he will be able to save the fuel, but at this point the only problem is when the leader is now 2 seconds away, it's not going to be as easy to try and undercut him on the fuel margin in the pit lane. If they all pit together, well, of course Simnor is expected to have the quickest pit stop on them all at this point, presuming he's done the most fuel saving. But in terms of the amount of fuel saving you do over 60 minutes, how much time is it realistically worth? It's normally worth somewhere between 2 to 3 seconds. You can push it a bit further. It can be worth as much as 5 seconds, depending on how aggressive the circuit is on fuel and just how aggressive your fuel saving has been. But as we see Simnor fall at 6 minutes back off of Peter's Veem, and now the gap to leader becomes almost 2.6 seconds. And the problem is now you're already extrapolating and stretching just how much of a strategic leap you're able to do. But we have seen it happen, to be fair. Last season in Split A, we did see some huge fuel saving margins where drivers are able to leap the best part of 5 seconds in the pit lane, and Hayden Miller in particular able to accomplish that at the Nürburgring. Right now, Simnor definitely, I think, trying to push the fuel margins even further than he would normally do. As we did see there, the Audi of Martin Brandon stepping aside, and the Audi R8 driver from Axis Simsports definitely having a bit of a difficult day after the open lap incident at turn number 7 for him, but now getting things back together as best he can here in 26th place. His next target is James Fraser, 15 seconds up the road, but remember Brandon has yet to take his strategic stop. He has pitted for repair work, but he has not pitted to put fuel in the car, so therefore that will have to happen at some point. But Martin Kenyon has got Adam Lynch still behind. They have both pitted. They have lost Denny Ploger, who is 2 seconds up the road. There you can see him on the bottom of your picture. So this battle for 23rd right now, we believe it is approximately the battle for 17th place on the strategic road. And Lynch definitely trying to get closer and closer here to look for a move on the McLaren driver. But these two cars very similar in where they gain the lap time, although the Porsche is a little bit stronger in the low-speed corners, whereas the McLaren is stronger in the medium-speed corners. The Porsche is the king of traction, and also it is the king on the brakes. The McLaren not as strong on the brakes by comparison, but definitely enjoys medium and high-speed benches that little bit more. But Dwayne Hoffman starts to make his way out to the pit lane as he does. Stephen Kershaw will be shortly leaving as well. You can see him parked up at the moment. But that means he's going to drop behind Denny Ploger as Ploger comes on through. Will he come out ahead of Martin Kenyon? Yes, he will. So Dwayne Hoffman does clear that battling pair. That's an important change. Hoffman does stabilise himself as Adam Lynch sneaks up the inside of Kenyon. He goes on through. And in fact, I think that Kenyon deciding to let it go after running a little bit deep rather than trying to fight it all the way towards turn number 3. So Hoffman now up into 21st place, but look at Adam Lynch drive with the back end like a bad rash here. Oh, and he goes round! Dwayne Hoffman gets it wrong, coming out of turn number 5. Just a little bit poor traction there coming out of the corner. I think dipping the rear right tyre onto what was the dirt, and he lost the traction, brings himself back onto the road, but it's disaster there for number 5 driver at his home circuit, having grown up in Florida, I believe in Tampa, as he makes his way onwards right now. The Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver, well, he's got around, but he's got to get himself back together. But to be fair, if I know Dwayne well, he'll get his head down immediately. He'll briefly throw a swear word underneath his visor, but on that he's going to be as cool as a cucumber, get out of the system and get going once again. As he does so, Stephen Kershaw 3.3 seconds by right now. We've seen that and thinks to himself, right, there's an opportunity here to try and move forward. And we'll keep in mind, of course, there might have been a tyre change or two there. They can change tyres at the same time as they take fuel on the GT3 cars. And, well, it's normally 2 tyres that are changed at most, given the amount of fuel they have to put in. As well, Sam Hockley comes into the pit lane with Schubert Cardozo, I believe, head on past. Indeed, there goes Cardozo up into 15th place. Still waiting a pit stop and still waiting some much-needed repair works. That front bumper of the Britain's car. Through the left hand he goes. More time still on the clock here, and well, from him, what exactly is happening further up the order? Well, your answer to that question is not too much at the moment. Everyone right now seems to be rather settled. But again, we do have the big question mark on pit stops. We're waiting to see who exactly is going to come into the pits and when, out of particularly your top 15 as it currently stands. And we'll show you who's pitted and who's not. Give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, albeit there are a couple of what is outliers. And well, as these drivers make their way on through, and the number of pit stops is shown on your time towel there, where there you can see currently your top 18 all yet to pit as we understand it. Otherwise, we have had pit stops for most of all drivers. Corey Price there with 4 pit stops. That is a bit of an anomaly. He has made 1 pit stop there, and well, that was a pit stop for repair work on the opening lap. But back to the fight for second we go. 3 temps still separated Petersveem and Simnor at the moment. 25 minutes left on the clock plus the final lap. Our BMW driver there goes a bit deep. Simnor sees his blood in the water here. He might be able to strike down towards the end of the bend. So therefore here we go in the tow. Of course that BMW is quick. The Corvette will just about catch up. Does Simnor go for it here into the opening left-hander? No, he waits. He thinks about it instead. Thinks, can I carry even more speed? As Justin Hembry in 6th place comes into the pit lane. So look out my commentary booth window. So he decides now he's the highest placed driver who has come into the pits from inside the top 10. Nobody else in the top 10 has come in as of yet. And therefore that means now that Hembry has seen an opportunity to perhaps gain some time, perhaps get himself safe versus what is Adrian Howard and move closer to Charlie Walker if he can. That's going to be a question mark that we'll get an answer to a bit later. As we can see Simnor closer again for a big bend. 2 attempts, looks to the inside there, but this is all posture for now. I think he wanted to go for it, but realised he just needed a couple more hundredths to be confident he could lunge it on the brakes, and also aware of the fact that Brandon Dyer is now 2.7 seconds up the road almost, and Dyer is definitely looking safer and safer here as we're heading towards what will be the end of the first in fuel tanks. So it's a question now. Does Simnor come in at the end of this lap? Because Petersveem is losing pace at this point. It's not to be rude about him, but it will be the analysis the DCW Racing Drive will do, is the fact that the man in second right now is proving to be a little bit of a cork in the bottle. And I think Simnor wants the places and the lap times to flow at the moment, but he can't if he's got the Dutchman in front of him. So we will see. As meanwhile, in the pit lane, Ross Young, Jordan Butler, they both make the way on back out shortly, albeit it will be Young ahead of Butler significantly, as we do see a car coming through there. Trying to see who that was. Leighton Austin will shortly be coming through the picture in his Mercedes. Here he is, but he will still be behind Young. We believe Austin still needs to take a pit stop for this racing, so therefore where he is at the moment may not be where he finishes. He may finish a bit further back. But Young has come out clear of Austin, and then Stenny Ploger behind. Ploger right now still trying to plug away at places, and there's still plenty of drivers who need to take a pit stop. Schubert Cardozo, he has now got Justin Hembry behind. Hembry, of course, has pitted. Cardozo has not. So therefore the number 1 car right now, 9. It will be futile fighting it with the DNR machine behind. But we will see what he will decide to do here. Will he step aside? Will he simply act as a bit of a pace car? Or will he just go into the pit sooner than perhaps intended, or immediately react? That is going to be part of the story. As Daniel Page meanwhile comes down pit road. Here he is, well, right now coming in from 5th place. He is battling with Adrian Howard, so therefore it'll be interesting to see where it comes out. In fact, not battling with Adrian Howard, my apologies, battling with Justin Hembry. Let's get the name right. Howard is coming into the pit lane. He was a bit further back. There he is, the priority heading on down right now. And we also do have Thomas Weston and McCart Aberset coming in, so it does seem as though the leaders are all gradually being forced into the pits very shortly. But here is Justin Hembry. We look to what is your blimp camera, and as the Inox Motorsport driver makes his way through Sunset Bend, with the blimp directly over the top of the corner, Schubert Cardozo comes into the pit lane. They're just obeying the pit line as much as he can, but here comes Page out the pit lane. He's almost to the limiter line. There he is, gets off the limiter, gets going. Will he beat Justin Hembry? Hembry's going to be close with him here. You'll see they're practically going to be 2 wide coming through Genderby and Ben, but Justin Hembry just sneaks ahead there. Perfectly timed by the Corvette driver ahead of the sister car, and as they make the way into the braking zone here, well, the number 3 does move forward. forward. So Justin Henry making a critical pass there, back into 6th place. We believe that is effective at 5th on the road, given the fact they're not too far away from Charlie Walker. But we'll see Leon Seeley is also up there as well. He may get forward behind them, but here's going to be a potential switch, as now Page looking around the outside here, building up the momentum through Big Ben. Does he go for it? It's too wide. It's going to be Henry on the left, Page on the right. You can't tell the difference. They're running the same livery. You can tell by the door number. Henry's in the number 3, Page is in the 25, and Page is still behind there, as Henry has to go defensive through the hairpin. And that's not going to help them for pace right now, as they'll lock in and both battle each other here all the way up towards turn number 10, coming through Cunningham. But Henry going defensive, then back onto race 9 at the last possible moment, making sure Page cannot sneak a dummy in there. And when they stay as they are, at least for now. Brandon Dyers into the pit lane from the lead of the race, but as his rivals come in, they do as well. So Joris Petersveen and Richard Simnor in. Leon Seeley will also come in from 4th place here, and that's going to be the end of the fuel tank, unless Charlie Walker can perhaps surprise us. But otherwise, we believe everyone has pitted, and I'm hearing in my ear that Leighton Austin has pitted. So we were incorrect about that. The data we had saying that it was a 0 pit stop to Leighton Austin is incorrect. We do believe he has pitted now, and that explains why he's currently running very happily in 14th place and making haste. So Walker makes his way on down, and well, now who's going to be the quickest of the pit stops here? It won't be the longest of the pit stops, I can tell you that. They'll all be in service at the moment. Petersveen there, he was the first in, so you would imagine he's going to be the first out. And in fact, well, no, he wasn't the first. It was Brandon Dyer was the first in there, as I get my names incorrect. And Brandon Dyer makes one out there. Richard Simler does jump Petersveen. We'd expect that, given the fact he was fuel saving behind. But in the end, the delta was only 6 tenths there, so not as big a delta as we thought. Simnor was the quickest of the trio in the pit lane. He only gained 3 tenths there off of Brandon Dyer. Most importantly, he's got ahead of Petersveen, and now we'll see what he can do for that 4th place start, where he's going to be able to launch his way up into lead. But he's got 2.5 seconds to close down, and he's now got to hope the BMW behind him plays ball here. Petersveen finds some pace. Well, we need to try and find some pace to match the DCW Racing Corvette at the minimum. But further back with Stuart Cardozo now having a fresh front bumper put on the car. He's battling here with Ross Young. Ross Young in the DXT Motorsports McLaren. Going up the inside there. A bit of contact. Oh, and that's going to send Young sideways. Tap to the rear, and suddenly for Stuart Cardozo. Oh, and the front bumper's being knocked down again, and there it goes again. Contact side to side with Denny Ploger. Ploger will get away with that just about. Ploger up in the 15th place there, but goodness me, as quick as that front bumper goes back on, it comes off there. And Sam Hockley right now sneaks on through and thinks to himself, well, what on earth's exactly happened here? Not that he'll mind it, he'll take those places off of those drivers, or he'll take the place off of Schubert Cardozo. He'll be hoping he'd get closer to Ross Young with damage to the rear of the car. As you can see, the front bumper finally comes completely off there of Schubert Cardozo's car, and the number 38 right now definitely tried to hurry on and see what else awaits him just around the bend. As he comes on through here with 20 minutes or so to go, we have lost quite a few drivers from this race, and we should give them a shout out there. We have lost as a result of the opening lap madness that played out on what was the run through turn 1 into 3, and also at turn number 7. We've lost Elliot Court, we've also lost Ben Woodgate, Raz Harper, Nathan Healy, Jared Love, and also we did lose, because they did not make the way to the grid, Jack Giles, Matthias Pettinger, Mark Collicott and Steve Hughes have all decided not to start the race after participating in practice and part of qualifying. But back to Jordan Butler we come, and he's currently behind Max Dean. I think Dean made a move on him only moments ago. We'll get an update on that when we can, as he tries to segue the way on through the corners. But the 195 driver at the moment, very keen towards turn number 13. As he does so, well, Booyerson a bit further back, the best part of the whole minute behind Butler, and therefore Butler right now trying to hold on to Dean, as that's going to be Ross Young around in the rear of the picture. He loses it coming out of turn number 13, a corner that catches out so many drivers. When you run slightly wide, the rear left tyre just going to the gravel or the grass, and in the end, trying to get the power down there, there's no grip available. And the Scotsman going spinning on around, and as he gets it back together, that's going to send him much further down the ground with regards to down to 20th place. We'll get a replay of that very shortly as to what exactly happened, as meanwhile, Arno Pragte in the none other than the Jägermeister Porsche for MJK Sim Racing. Well, he has got Leighton Austin inching closer and closer. Austin definitely right now scurrying his way back up the order as we get a jump on board here on the front bumper, and as he does, trying to go around at the outside to inside. In fact, we now look to the exterior cameras there, as it gives you a better appreciation of the battle coming down in towards Jenderby and Ben. Austin on the inside, and the relentless racing driver here doesn't need to be told twice to go for this move, and he will get it done. Short, sweet and simple, as Arno Pragte meanwhile just tucks in behind there and tries to stay with him for a little bit longer. I think expecting that Leighton Austin will gradually pull away, and Pragte's not going to fight it too hard, in the fact that he and teammate Denny Ploger right now running 14th and 15th. They're having a very happy day in the office, both gaining 9 places from where they started. But with that battle complete, at least for the time being, we do take a look back in time at some of the big moments over the last 15 to 20 minutes, including, of course, this big moment for Jordan Butler. So this was Butler making his way out of the pit lane, and things went a bit wrong as he made his way out. He was running 26th at the time, tried to get the power down, and the rear of the car completely let go. I suspect the cold temperature on the tyres there, with the car being stationary in the pit lane, coming back to bite a little bit and having to let the places go. And then subsequently, he ended up battling with Max Dean, and this was his fight with Dean coming out to turn number 7. So a bit of a poor run out the corner for Butler. This was Dean then getting the traction out of the hairpin. And as they made the way out through Fangio Bend, well, Dean briefly lost connectivity and then made his way back, returned from the ether, and indeed with Ethereal Spirit tucked up the inside there, and Butler not knowing what to do other than to stay on the outside. I think playing it safe there for the risk of a blinking car, where essentially the connection is in and out very quickly. But then we sadly did have this for Ross Young. Only months later on lap number 21, he was battling with Denny Ploger at the time, made his way into Tower Bend and got close, went just that tiny bit wide, and the rear left tyre there, you could see it spun up aggressively on the dirt, and that's what sent the car spinning around into the barrier. Got it recovered, but lost a bit of the rear of the car as a result of it, and he won't be too pleased about that mistake. An easy mistake to make, but a very costly one at that. As we also did have this move by Leighton Austin and Arno Prague down in towards turn number 1. As he did so in the toe there of the Mercedes, and Prague stay on the outside, not really offering an inside defence or a major defence, and letting the relentless race in 23 take the move, and we're at the position moving up into 13th place. When that, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to your live racing we go. And as we do come on back, well, still a quarter of this race remaining. Anything can happen before they do reach the finish. And speaking of which, Sam Hockley battling here with Denny Ploger for 15th place. So he's going to try and look for a move around the outside, but Ploger goes defensive, and Shimon Cardozo taps him a little bit. Cardozo there being a bit too eager, expected Hockley to be quicker than that. And Cardozo not quite able to read the battle in front of him, and Hockley almost paying the price as a result of a bit of misinterpretation. Although no malice meant here by the number 1 driver, to be fair. I think it was just the enthusiasm he carried into the corner. So therefore, he's going to tuck back in for now as he chases after Hockley. Ploger still holding on, but indeed that 15th place right now for the number 12 driver, definitely looking very highly threatened. Meanwhile, we see the battle here for 20th place. Dwayne Hoffman looking for a move, although he has got some damage to the front of the car there. And well, as they come down towards turn number 7, we're looking to the braking zone, and well, that's going to be still. Oh my good lord, Stephen Kershaw comes in like a missile. He gets it stopped, does he? No, not quite. He almost got it done there. If he'd been able to get that stopped, I'd be saying, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a move of the season there before the season's even officially got underway. Well, Stephen Kershaw in the end making an attempt of it, but I think missing his braking marker in reality. He went on the inside of the pair of them. Good reactions from Adam Lynch and Dwayne Hoffman. Everybody there saw what was going on, and everyone reacted accordingly. And somehow, someway, Stephen Kershaw managed to get the barrel in Porsche number 4 to a stop, and we're just in the nick of time there. That could have been far, far worse, but indeed it was absolutely brilliant. Ashley Shucksmith meanwhile behind in 23rd, but he saw that at a distance and thought, okay, what's going on there? I'm going to need to find my way to get close to them when I can. But meanwhile, speaking of closeness, well, unfortunately for Richard Simnor, he's not been able to get closer to Brandon Dyer, who is gradually gapping them, and now right now he's got the problem of Peters Veem much closer to him. Peters Veem within 2 tenths here as they make their way down towards Cunningham Corner. Will he go for the move on the brakes here? The answer is no. But looking back from the rear of your second Corvette, well, that BMW with kidney bean grille, the G82 Model F4 definitely looking very threatening. And well, can it find a way in? The Evo car there, of course, with the upgraded aero package for the purposes of 2025 and onwards, even looking a bigger threat than normal. But as they make the way through right now, well, Richard Simnor trying to hold it together here in the Corvette. And we'll see what he can do over the course of the corners. Now, the one thing that is noticeable, of course, is the fact that Peters Veem, I think, has found a little bit of the pace that had escaped him earlier on, as we do see a car stepping wide there. That is going to be, I believe, the car of none other than the Mercedes, of Eddie Theobald stepping aside, as that is Theobald there. That you can see him running in 31st place, a couple of laps down at this point, but the number 40 drive still keeping the positivity. But meanwhile, we're positive of one thing here. Peters Veem trying to look for that move, almost on the inside there, as they go towards sunset. He's definitely right now playing temptation with fate as we ride aboard where the Dutchman, he goes on to lap number 25, and here so close at the moment. This battle really building up, and well, I suspect they're both going to be in the pro class going into this season of the Superstars. And right now Peters Veem fancied his chances, but Simnor simply matching him every step of the way. They're going through turn number 1, up towards 3 they go. Simnor goes defense in the middle of the road. Peters Veem tries to go around the outside here. Can he squeeze it around? The answer is no. Instead he backs off, now looking to go in towards turn number 5. on his way through that corner. Peter Lee's still trying to make an attempt to this as much as he can, but similar there, just a little bit more confident in the corners. You would expect it. Mid-engine rear-wheel drive versus front-engine rear-wheel drive. Always mid-engine's going to have a bit more cornering capability, subject to the setup of the cars. They do have a driver. They put a lap down there. That's James Fraser, I do believe. They make the way out the inside, so the Moonshiners Racing Club drive will be dropped, and therefore it made it one wide only for a brief moment into a good overtaking spot of the hairpin typically. Come off the onboard there, that's half the lap, and well, we can see that Joris Petersveen right now losing out a little bit, but trying to come back when he can. Speaking of making a comeback, Sam Hockley still chased after Denny Ploger, as Stuart Cardozo has found his way on past quite recently. We'll get a replay of that when we can, because he did try to make his way through initially, but didn't quite work, but he has now found his way past both of them, so Cardozo has made haste and hay. But as the Briton here of Hockley stays close to Ploger, he fancies his chances potentially for that 16th place at the very end of this one. As we do have what is a 12-second gap to Ross Young after his spin. He's definitely put himself out of contention for this battle, unless some of these drivers have a bit of a nightmare moment. We'll have to see what happens there, as we do take a look back at the battles that enabled Stuart Cardozo to move forward and up into what is that 15th place position. So this was initially coming on through Sunset Bend, so it was a run wide there from Sam Hockley, and as a result Cardozo was able just to simply sneak on the inside. To the outside he then went, but this was how he cleared the first drive, the Aston Martin, and well, with that it was then going to be a run a little bit later on to pass Denny Ploger, and this is what happened on lap number 24, and it was coming out of Big Bend. So Ploger, in the end, having a decent run out the corner, but Cardozo, in the end, deciding to go all in and beat the Porsche on the brakes. It's not easy to do, gets it stopped, and that was a smooth move there, as meanwhile, Sam Hockley could only watch on as it was all playing out in front of him. Now, sadly, we did have this happen to Adam Lynch in parallel on lap 24. This was Lynch making his way down. Oh, hold on a second. Something's wrong with that car well before he's parked it up. So damage to the car. Not quite sure what's happened, but something's gone very wrong there. Can we see what happened earlier on? This was on lap 23. Did Adam Lynch have a bit of a moment? Of course, this was the big dive from Stephen Kershaw, so it didn't happen here because Kershaw was able to avoid Lynch's car just about, and Dwayne Hoffman tried to go around the outside there, but Lynch parking it in the middle of the road. So that was an absolutely epic moment. But what was perhaps not as epic by comparison was this towards the end of lap 23. Now this was Adam Lynch making his way down. Dwayne Hoffman was looking up the inside. To why they went in. Lynch went a little bit deeper here, but as a result still survived the corner. So something's broken on that Porsche, but we don't know what. And going out the corner, that explains it. Understeering wide into the barrier. And well, you're not going to survive that one when you make a mistake like that. And Adam Lynch having to toe to the pits immediately as a result. So Hoffman put him under pressure. And Lynch making a major mistake. And Hoffman up to 20th place as a result of that contact with the barrier. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way back to your live racing. And as we do, well, there's still moments of drama here. We've got 8 minutes to go, and still anything can happen before it's all over. We normally say that, and we mean it every time, because right now, all these drivers still pushing onwards. As our leader, Brandon Dyer, 3.1 seconds ahead of Richard Simnor, who comes through Sunset Bend. Simnor is matching the pace of Dyer, it must be said. So therefore, I think right now, Brandon just simply able to manage the gap, perhaps, not pushing himself too hard, turning it down from 100% to around about 95 to 90. Oh, that's going to spin around in the rear of the picture. Who's that getting it wrong just before they've been able to get across the start-finish line? Couldn't quite see who it was, but that was a nightmare moment, and Leon Seeley comes on through. In fact, I think that's the Samantha Town Racing driver going around. That car looks a little bit bruised as it comes across the line, and indeed, he lost 4 seconds coming on through. I think that was Seeley going for a spin there. Well, he's got it back together. We can't get a replay of that, but what we can see is that Justin Hembry and Daniel Page now have absolutely flown up behind him. They're both in a second as they look to go onto this 27th tour of the circuit, and we could yet still have a battle for 4th place here. We believe it was Seeley's car. That car does look actually quite clean the more and more we look at it there, but it was a very similar livery car at that. And well, if it was not Leon Seeley's, I'm not quite sure who it was, but somebody definitely got it very wrong there, went for a spin and then got themselves back up to speed. But as the Samantha Tam Racing driver holds on to 4th currently, Hembry and Page right now definitely getting close. I think Seeley, if he's not picked up damage, he's running out of pace, but either way, time is also running out here, and that battle for 4th place is going to build up to a bit of a crescendo. Back to James Fraser, he's just up the road in fact, and Corey Price just in front of him. Price recently passing Fraser for 23rd, but these two still just about holding together with regards to their battling, and the Mercedes driver trying to break away, but the Ferrari looking looking quite confident, and Fraser right now never counts him out, to be fair, until the very end of the race. He always does normally spring a surprise or two. Ross Young passing Dwayne, well, in fact, Dwayne Hoffman passing Ross Young there. And Young does have damage to the car, so that's how Dwayne Hoffman's getting on past. Another place gained there by the full tilt Virtual Motorsport Lamborghini, and the DXT Motorsports McLaren right now just trying to struggle on to the very end. But Leon Seeley here, he's definitely got damage on that car. He was the car going spinning around that we saw, because that is not looking a happy Corvette at the moment, as Daniel Page takes the rallycross approach. They're coming out to Le Mans, and meanwhile Justin Henry leaves his teammate behind for a little bit, and they make the way up towards turn number 17. Will we see Henry look for the move here? Will it be on the next lap? Seeley will not want to be bitten twice by the exit of Sunset this time. I think he'll be a bit more cautious here, but of course caution drops pace. And as long as they make the way out the corner, goes very sideways there, just about catching it to Seeley. Well, that was pretty much tantamount to disaster if he hadn't caught that, so well done to him for doing so. But Justin Henry takes the place, and Daniel Page at this point tucks up the inside and says, you know what, I'm taking that off of you. And Seeley doing as much as he can here, valiant effort to make sure he doesn't lose it, but he is going to lose the place eventually. And there is Daniel Page up in a 5th place, takes that place now. And I think Seeley at this point with a 4.5 second gap to Charlie Walker, the Relentless Racing Ford Mustang. Well, surely at this point, if Seeley just keeps it together at the rate he's running, well, I was going to say he should be safe for 6th place, but given the fact he lost another 4 seconds that lap, Walker will be with him within the next 2 laps. He'll be with him on the final lap. We could see Seeley fall to 7th place, but after that, with a 12 second gap to Adrian Howard, I think that will be the stop of the rot at that point. And I think Seeley will be able to take a top 10 still, and most likely 7th place, if not being able to hold on to 6th. Well, we're definitely now heading towards the final throws of this day, and well, this pre-season race event has given us plenty of information to digest. It's been absolutely full of action from the start. Not always the best action, to be fair, when it went wrong on the open lap, but that's always going to happen when you've got such a close and competitive field. You are going to see big incidents. When you do have 40 plus cars making their way in towards an opening corner, everyone's going to jostle, and it only takes one of the dominoes to fall for the whole pack to fall over. And well, that's what we definitely did see for several drivers there, but it's been great to see so many drivers get their cars back out there and carry on. That's the racing spirit we always love to see. And the fact we have 30 runners still out of what was our 36 effective starters in this race, that tells you everything here. Everyone's looking to go for gold, even in the pre-season event, and everyone wanted to turn as much track time as possible. But we come back to Joris Petersveen for just that little bit longer. They go on to the penultimate lap. Onto lap number 29 they turn, and as they do, Simnor still half a second ahead. I think right now Petersveen is running out to a little bit of steam here, matching the pace of Simnor, no question about that. But he's no longer breathing down his neck as aggressively as he was previously, and I think the Dutchman right now just finding that he's met his match here. They're heading to a stalemate, and well, in such a stalemate, Richard Simnor will be the victor of this game of high-speed, high-stakes chess, because it is going to be 2nd place for him and 3rd for Petersveen, unless he can goad one final mistake out of Simnor. But to be fair, running this close, it only takes a tiny error, and this battle will come right back to a crescendo. From then, we look a little bit further back down to Daniel Page, as Leon Seeley taking another moment off the road there. On the exit, Gender being Ben, Seeley's car right now really struggling, and I think that spin coming out of Sunset really has knocked the suspension of the car around and the steering. And well, there is Charlie Walker, and Walker right now is going to be with him before he even gets halfway through the penultimate lap, let alone the final lap, which was our prediction. So can Walker find a way in? Well, that Ford Mustang's got a lot of straight line speed. The Corvette's not lacking it, to be fair, for Seeley. It's lacking cornering capability. Through that hairpin. Low speed corners don't seem to be the problem for Seeley. It's as soon as they go into 3rd or 4th gear corners, that seems to be where the problems start to occur. As we jump on board with Charlie Walker, well, right now it's still distant, to be fair, 6/10. It looks a long way away when in reality it's not. Going in towards the right-hander of Cunningham here. Will we see Seeley's car start to shake around through this medium time speed complex? Turns 11 through to 12. The answer is not quite. Seems to be a bit composed at the moment. So Walker's going to try and find a way to get that a little bit closer under his own volition. But in fact, coming out of tower, there you can see it. Just a bit of better traction on the exit, and see these cars sliding a little bit. And now the Relentless Racing 22 within the draft, getting closer through Bishop. Doesn't go for it here into turn 15. He doesn't need to. He can wait for Ullman to go for this, so he has got that straight line advantage as he comes through Le Mans, and now going all the way towards the apex curve. And does he get the right line here? He does. It's a lovely exit line, and at this point now, 2 attempts, he's going to start to power his way past the fellow V8, and here they go then, and Charlie Walker on the inside at this point. And as much as Seeley wants to fight it, something tells me he's going to have to let this one go and see if Walker makes an error here in towards the final bend of the penultimate lap, rolling on in, and Seeley goes nice and deep there. I think that is a line to try and keep the car as stable as possible. He V-shapes it out. He will lose time, but he also means he gains a bit of traction there and is able to stay in 7th place all the way to the end. It's a smooth move from Charlie Walker, time that to perfection, and Leon Seeley right now just trying to hold the car together as he comes into Gen B in the corner that seems to strike hard. As he comes through that left-hander, he holds it together this time. But meanwhile, on this last lap, your leader, Brandon Dyer for Altitude for Esports, he has got a 2.8 second gap to Richard Simnor, who's still got Joris Peters Veem behind. And Veem right now 4 attempts behind here in 3rd. Not able to find a way in at the moment at least. They've still got half the lap or so to go. Justin Hembry's running in 4th at the moment, a very happy 4th place. Here he is, ahead of Daniel Page. The two teammates looking good together. And as they come on through, Hemby right now keeping it all nicely compacted and just hoping there's a little bit more in the tank perhaps to make sure that his teammate Daniel Page doesn't find a way in at the very last moment. From them, as we look back to Charlie Walker and Leon Seeley, again you can see that gap now starting to open up very quickly there, and your top 10 being completed by Adrian Howard, who is in 8th place at the moment, the privateer, ahead of Thomas Weston and Brad Pickett in the McLaren there, completing that top 10, with the top 10 dominated, you could say, by Corvette. We do have 5 different manufacturers inside the top 10, so a bit of car variety here at Sebring. It seems as though the Corvette is the car to be in, although is it going to be the car to be in for the season? That is a big question mark that we'll have to wait and see at the Hockenheim Ring. But as he makes his way in towards the final quarter for Brandon Dyer, this has been a race where he might have started in 5th place. When it went wrong for his rivals in the open lap, he picked up some of the pieces and he was able to sneak his way on past Richard Simon on Joris Peters Veem. As he glances the exit towards Sunset Bend, he'll see the checker flag. Brandon Dyer is your winner here at Sebring today in the pre-season event for the Superstars for Altitude for Esports. Richard Simon will take the runner-up spot just ahead of Joris Peters Veem in a brilliant battle between those two all the way through the race. And then we will see Justin Hembry very shortly make his way on through to come on home in 4th place here. Brilliant effort from him, having started 3rd, but then will take 4th ahead of Daniel Page, who comes from 14th to 5th, and then it'll be a further 4 seconds back before you do get to Charlie Walker, who takes 6th place for Relentless Racing in a solid drive. Leon Seeley does survive to 7th place in the end for Samantha Town Racing despite the damage on the car, and then we will have Adrian Howard coming out here in 8th place as he sees his checkered flag just ahead of Thomas Weston, the rear of the picture in the Ferrari. He'll come home 9th, and then it will be Brad Pickett in the McLaren, catching him gradually at the end, taking home 10th place, having started 20th, with Mikhail Abasek in 11th place, right behind him, and then you will see Bradley Setters just a bit further adrift. But ladies and gentlemen, I do believe we may have run out of videotape with regards to this replay there, so we're not going to get to see every car hit the finish line, unfortunately. It has been called just as they're all about to come on home, but still, we've run out of tape, but we haven't run out of time to walk you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are as they do come up on screen, but we do apologise for that. But in the end, as we can see, and well, a few drives there listed as finishing a lap down, but not quite so. They did actually finish on the lead lap. Brandon Dyer then, your winner here today for what was Altitude at 3M Esports, taking that victory in the end by 3 seconds over Richard Simnor, with the DCW racing driver in the end just missing out on the chance to battle for the win. But to be fair, he got to enjoy a brilliant battle for 2nd place and took that 2nd place off of Joris Peters Veem by only 4 attempts to the finish line. The privateer settling for 3rd, but I suspect when he goes racing in a week's time, he'll be looking to go for 1st place, albeit knowing he could put it on pole today, but he's got to adjust that race pace if he is bringing the BMW M4 Evo to the table. Justin Hembry, a survivor of the open lap incident, the Inox Motorsport driver in the end, falling from 3rd to 4th, but he won't be too upset about that given the recovery drive he put together. And Daniel Page coming all the way through from 14th to 5th. He'll be proud as punch for that for Daniel Newman Racing. Charlie Walker took 6th there for Relentless Racing, making his way steadily up from 8th to 6th over the distance, with Leon Seeley taking home that 7th place, surviving in the Corvette that was very heavily bruised for Samantha Tam Racing. And there was Adrian Howard, the privateer, ahead of his fellow privateers of Thomas Weston and Brad Pickett, who completed your top 10. In 11th, we had Mikhail Abasek for Inox Motorsport, and joining him on that lead lap finished, it was none other than Bradley Setters. Leighton Austin took 13th place for Relentless Racing just behind his teammate, but comfortably ahead of Arno Pragt, with Shibot Cardozo completing at the top 15 behind the MJK Sim Racing driver, with the Inter Racing team driver enjoying plenty of batting all the way through. He knew his car was a bit bruised over the distance. Denny Ploger took 16th place for MJK Sim Racing, missing out on the top 15 just about, being able to hold off Sam Hockley to the line, we do believe. In fact, let's just double check that. Did he hold on? Because I'm not 100% certain. They were practically dead even heading towards the finish line. And your answer to that is going to be no. He actually did lose out there. So we don't get to see that, unfortunately, from the replay file. But he did lose out there and fell behind Hockley right at the end. And we do apologise for not being able to show you that. Dwayne Hoffman took 18th place, meanwhile, just ahead of Ross Young and Ashley Shucksmith completed your top 20. Outside the top 20, in 21st place, it was Stephen Kershaw, head of Martin Kenyon. The two privateers back-to-back to each other. And then we did see, from a second between them, a lap down for Corey Price in 23rd for Darkwing Racing. It was also a lap down to James Fraser. And then we did see what was 2 laps down in the end. But in fact, a lap down as classified Ashley Coupland ahead of Martin Brandon, with Max Dean, John Butler and Frank Buyason completing your top 29, and Eddie Theobald rounding off that top 30. Outside the top 30, in 31st place, it was Adam Lynch, who did in the end finish what was several laps down, 6 laps down to be exact. Unfortunately, that late instant cost him very dear. And then we did see retirements as well for Nathan Healy, Ben Woodgate, Raz Harper, Elliot Court, and Jared Love. And we did see non-starts for 4 of our drivers, which did include, of course, none other than what was Mark Collicott, and also Jack Giles, Matthias Pessinger, and Steve Hughes. So that completes your rundown of the race results, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, what a race it's been today, but big commiserations there for the DDK Racing team, with all their team being wiped out before they even managed to make 3 quarters, and they'll be hoping for a much stronger day when they go racing at the Hockenheim Ring. Of course, no classes too today. Everyone in the same class, no classes assigned as of yet for the Superstars, but we're definitely going to see those classes assigned as will what will be at the Hockenheim Ring. But definitely a big story at the very front there, and congratulations to our top 3 of Brandon Dye, your winner, Richard Simnor, your runner-up, and Joris Petersveem, the man who finished in 3rd place. But with that, it's now time for us to wrap up. And thank you very much for watching. And if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wondering how you can potentially get on the grid and enjoy all the racing action here at SimRacing International, well, for all that and more, we definitely recommend you go to our official Discord, invite link at the bottom of your screen. And if you do, you'll be in one of the most friendly and up-and-coming sim racing communities that you can join around the globe. As well as we operate out of the United Kingdom, we are open to everybody, whether you hail from the UK itself, the European continent, America, Asia, anywhere in the world, you are more than welcome to be part of our grid. And in terms of what you can join, well, of course, we do have the upcoming seasons due to get underway of the GT3 Masters and the GT3 Superstars on Thursdays that do begin on what will be the upcoming Thursday in a week's time, and that will be on none other than Thursday, the 2nd of April, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that very shortly. But of course, you do have as well, if you're looking for GT endurance class racing, well, we do make a trip back in time every Friday for Season 2 of what is the GT3 Championship there. Had its opener only what was last week, and it was an absolutely fantastic opener there, and we've got even plenty more racing to come when we do see our GTs carry on the story of their season. But if you're a GT3 fan, but you're more of a weekend racer, well, we have got you covered there as well, because on Sundays, we do have the UK Sim Racing Series back for its 18th season, with a rebranded Sunday Showdown, with a whole new rule set there with regards to the final 3 rounds of the championship, and we're telling you more about that when the season gets underway in a week or so's time. But if you're looking for something far more casual, perhaps you're looking to learn the ropes when it comes to league racing, or perhaps you're inexperienced at sim racing in general, we do have our practice league, which runs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So there's never been a better time to be on the grid at SimRacing International, whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie driver. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include Carmate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and lastly, we'd like to give a big shout out to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's to Germany and beyond we go, because round number 1 of the Superstars will be hosted there on Thursday, the 2nd of April 2026. We'll be live from circuit side, and we'll get to see who exactly is going to set the pace in our Pro, Inter and Evo classes. But here today in the Sebring pre-season test event, we are seeing the top 3 of Brandon Dye, Richard Simnor and Joris Petersveem seem to have the pace in the race, with the instant on lap number 1 for so many drivers. Well, that's definitely left a lot of question marks about who exactly could be the quickest out there, particularly when you consider we saw a brilliant lap to put himself on the front row for Elliot Court for DDK Racing Team, and also we did get to see Justin Hembry start strong with a qualifying lap, but unfortunately never materialised in the race. But those are just some of the big names at the front. There'll be plenty of names to talk about, and keep in mind, of course, we only saw 40 of our 60 entry drivers here today, so therefore we've got 20 names also to reveal to you as of what we are opening round. So come tune in then as we begin the true story of the points earning rounds, indeed the season of Season 12 of the Superstars here in the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship and iRacing. But until then, we've been SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.